The man told his daughter that he had finally found a suitable groom for her. The girl was slightly surprised by the news, but then she realized that in front of her was the Borgia Pope, and she tried to keep a smile on her face, although it was difficult. The family's second son, Engin de Borgia, exclaimed, amazed that less than 3 months had passed since the dissolution of his previous marriage. The man turned to his son, but he insisted that even the most advantageous union was not worth hasty decisions. The father doubted whether it was worth considering Rudbeckia's feelings, and noted with surprise that he could not yet get used to his son's unexpected concern, asking whether he would not, instead of military reinforcements for Britain, fight back against the savages. Engin countered that it was not impossible, for these uncivilized barbarians could be defeated by the best knights of the south. The man advised his son not to be too overzealous, while the young lady kept a smile on her face, watching the family scene. The girl realized the same old story was starting up again and asked her father who this man was. Borgia replied that it was the beloved Britannian, the finest knight in the north, whose nephew was highly prized by the king. He was an attractive young man, sure to please Rudbeckia, but his son cried out that he had a dubious reputation. His father merely remarked calmly, "It's a question of which cow to speak," and Engin fell silent. The girl realized that even in her dreams, she could hardly have imagined what an important figure this handsome knight of the north would become in the future. He would soon be going into mass slumber at his father-in-law's house, and now the man turned to Ruby. The young lady felt goosebumps run down her spine again at his words, and without further ado, she knew that everything was clear, only hoping that he would not be too insistent. Cheshire de Borgia was the eldest son of the family, and the main character watched her parents closely, trying to understand their moods. She smiled and thanked her father, saying that she would be glad to help him despite all the difficulties. The girl's brother also smiled, then kissed her on the forehead, noting how beautiful and kind she was. The girl smiled and realized that after all the trials, she should think about her next steps, because she herself could become one of the victims of the best knight of the north. The girl's difficult life last year ended prematurely due to a helicopter accident, and she hoped that now she could find long-awaited peace. But what if she were to become the heroine of a dramatic work? What's more, what if that character turned out to be from the book she read before her eternal sleep? The girl wondered whether the new life would be as painful, and whether the environment would be similar to the previous one she had already encountered. The young lady realized the gravity of the situation and after some time found herself in the toilet, pondering her fate. Wiping her mouth, she regretted that even in her new life she had not been given a more adequate family and the usual care. She was used to secretly kissing the toilet, but she still had trouble with the memory. Another common feature of her past and present life was anorexia, which continued to make itself felt. Before becoming Rudbeckia de Borgia and falling into eternal sleep, the girl was born in Korea. She was later adopted by an upper-class Spanish family and grew up in a wealthy environment, surrounded by luxury and attention. She was able to attend a prestigious private school, take ballet and tennis lessons, and take full advantage of the opportunities her family provided. Horse racing and charity events filled every day of her life, making her world bright, noisy, and full of anticipation. But one day, someone started quietly making fun of her, and at that moment, the girl did not understand at all why this was being done and what it meant. She even sometimes laughed along with the other kids, not suspecting that they were actually imitating her habits and actions. Time passed, and with each passing day, she was able to endure the insults directed at her with some kind of inner fortitude and patience. The family that adopted her only seemed virtuous and exemplary at first glance, but each of the parents had their own hidden secrets. One had a lover, the other older brother completely devoted himself to pleasure and a life filled with debauchery and drugs. The eldest sister, a young lady, the only one in the family who showed even the slightest concern for her, chose to enter into eternal sleep at the age of 21. Even her eldest brother, whom she considered decent, turned out to be no better than her father and displayed monstrous character traits. Therefore, she carefully built the image of a cheerful, smart, and obedient daughter, pretending to be perfect, and this became a habit for her. After all, any mistake she made could cost her dearly, so she learned to hide her mistakes and always show external perfection. At 16, she came across a fantasy novel on a literary website called Sodom and the Grail, and she became completely captivated. In this story, she took on the role of the antagonist Rudbeckia de Borgia, following the structure of the book and its internal conflict. The book was built on the principle that good always triumphs over evil, even in times when the clergy lost their moral bearings. The power of the Pope seemed limitless, but respectable clergy united with northern families and entered into the struggle. They had destroyed the Pope and his entire family, and the young lady, being the Pope's daughter, knew that her fate was also sealed. She realized that she was facing eternal sleep, and she was troubled by the thought that this fate would come at the hands of the man with whom she would be married. Moreover, this awareness gave her life a touch of tragic inevitability from which there was no escape. At 15, the young man became a holy knight, and by 18, he was the youngest winner in history, demonstrating incredible abilities. Even after becoming a paladin, Isuke showed pride and independence, making the hearts of northern girls beat faster. One day, a girl accidentally stepped on his foot, and he just looked at her coldly, demonstrating his severity and ascetic behavior. The young lady understood that talk of marriage irritated him, and that strict adherence to asceticism was creating many problems for her father. Among women, he only became close to his younger sister and his childhood friend Freya, who remained close. A young man changed after his mother's death, when a young princess in love burst into his life and he experienced deep feelings. The princess, a former partisan, left this world at his hands, and the main character understood what a strong impact this incident had on the children. The soul of a man who attempted suicide was cursed by God and fell to the depths, leaving a mark on the destinies of those around him. Since her mother was a princess, the topic of tragedy was taboo, and the girl realized that she had read the novel a long time ago and remembered only part of its events. She couldn't understand how Isuke had so calmly agreed to marry Rudbeckia, despite everything that had happened. If Isuke refused, his younger sister would have to marry Ijin, which would place additional obligations on his decision. The girl guessed that Isuke had decided to marry himself, rather than allow his sister to tie her fate to an unsuitable person. At that moment, all the Vatican's military forces were occupied with internal conflicts and were unable to resist the barbarians on the borders. The price of aid from the Kingdom of Britannia, which had powerful knights, was a wedding, and the young lady tried to understand why Isuke killed his father-in-law's family. It all turned out to be because Rudbeckia poisoned his younger sister, and this caused him to become very angry and want revenge. But the order to do this came from Cheshire, and many rumors circulated about Rudbeckia. She was considered a spy for the Pope and a dissolute villain. Her character truly left much to be desired, combining cunning and treachery, which reinforced her dangerous reputation. The girl treated her younger sister Isuke and his childhood friend like servants, which reflected her arrogance and habit of commanding. The young lady realized that 3 years had already passed since she had entered this world, and now she had a clearer understanding of the reasons for Rudbeckia's madness. The Princess of Romania, surrounded by the love of her family, seemed like an Iskidim lark, whose life was filled with joy and care. Everything around her, including her previous life, looked like a carefully planned performance, and the young lady thought that Ruby was now safer. At that moment, someone entered the room and addressed her, and the main character instantly jumped up from her seat, reacting warily. She wondered if it was her brother who had come, but the man noticed that she looked depressed and decided to intervene out of concern. So he decided to visit her. The girl smiled at the time, thinking to herself that her brothers knew him well, but she thought he was just playing the annoyingly affectionate older brother again. At this time, the brunette was asking her if she liked the future and how honest she was about the possibility of marriage. The girl thought that she could have gotten a punch in the face for that, and it would have been better if he had thrown away the turtle figurine altogether. But soon the young lady admitted to herself that everything was more complicated, and she herself did not yet understand what was happening to her. She just thought that the north seemed so far away. She also foresaw that it would be very lonely there, since it would be almost impossible to see her brother. The man then asks why she was lonely and what about her husband. The main character wondered what this had to do with her life, since she wanted to spend her whole life with her brother. The brunette carefully stroked her head, considering it an honor for himself, and called her the beauty of Romanya. He desired only her. Rudbeckia sensed that this touch could suddenly turn cruel. Also, her protective wall surrounding her could collapse at any moment, and this gave the girl goosebumps. The young lady wondered how he could be so attached and yet remain calm. She understood that he was capable of using her and causing her pain. When Rudbeckia turned 15, she was only just beginning to get used to this place. At this time, rumors began to appear about a wedding with the Duke of the Rembrandt Kingdom, as described in the original novel. The marriage with him was dissolved for a shameful reason. They said that he was physically incapable, but later, this guy became one of those who led their family to ruin. Since the young lady was very fond of her new family members, who treated her warmly, she refused to marry him to prevent a family disaster. At that moment, the Pope's cold gaze made her shudder and gave her a strange feeling of déjà vu. Rudbeckia understood that everything was repeating itself, just like in her past life. Then Cheshire beat her until she begged for mercy. After several similar incidents, the girl realized the situation she was in, considering that she was not a biological daughter. A girl named Carmen, who died immediately after giving birth, became pregnant before meeting the Pope. Her new life was a replica of her previous one, and she quickly mastered the survival strategy of pretending to be an actress. Even though they weren't related, the girl thought it was too cruel and now pretended to feel sorry. But looking at her brother, she thought he was such a madman. He admitted it was hard for him to let her go, but she thought he was the only one who was scary. She later said she'd heard of many monsters in the north. Her brother touched her then. He assured her that talented knights were ready to lay down their lives to protect her, and asked what she was worried about, since he would visit her whenever possible. The girl realized that not everything was so bad, because these places could be interesting, and decided to consider it as a 6-month trip. The main character asked if it was true that it was only for 6 months, and the guy confirmed that she needed to be patient, because no one could harm her, and there was no need to worry. The girl thought that her brother should go instead of her, since she was concerned about something completely different. She asked if her brother would visit her often. Cheshire answered in the affirmative. But in her thoughts, she asked him not to come, because just thinking about a plan for survival was enough for her. Rudbeckia wondered what would happen if she didn't put her younger sister into eternal sleep. However, if she didn't do it, Cheshire would commit the crime for her. If this were the case, everyone would be sure that she was the villain, so within 6 months, she must prevent the massacre of her younger sister and prove to the people of the North that she is completely harmless. As before, the young lady was once again forced to fight for her life, as if fate would not allow her a moment of relaxation. After some time, the situation began to change again, and she felt like every minute was worth its weight in gold. The young lady slowly walks out of the estate. Her father watches his daughter with tender pride, noting her extraordinary beauty, which is capable of attracting the attention of everyone around. She is so charming that the whole North seemed ready to fall in love with her at first sight, and a slight smile crosses her face when she thinks about it. The man notices her sadness and gently tells his child not to be upset, trying to at least slightly ease her experiences in this difficult moment. They are not parting forever, and the girl understands that now she has no other desires except to say goodbye to her loved ones, as if the whole world had shrunk for a moment to this moment. However, she admits that she will miss her, and her father smiles and replies that they will miss her presence too, making the farewell a little less difficult. Her older brother would like to see her off, but the circumstances are complicated, and the heroine realizes that they don't even realize how happy she is about this, hiding her true feelings. There are many rumors circulating about her in Cheshire, and the young lady cannot help but wonder how many different stories are being woven around them, weighing every opinion. Didn't her father see the looks of discontent and hostility from the Northerners towards her and her brother, or was he simply pretending not to notice these emotions? When she looks at her father's face, she finds it difficult to understand whether he really doesn't know or is just pretending, hiding his thoughts behind a calm expression. At that moment, one of her brothers comes up, screaming in anger and wondering why everyone else is acting so calm except him. The young lady turns to her brother, but he looks away and then comes closer, as if trying to hide the storm of emotions raging inside him. He hugs her, and Rebecca realizes that although he is arrogant, impulsive, and sometimes looks like a walking disaster, next to him she feels safe, warm, and supported. Engin has never hurt her, and she returns his embrace, realizing that his presence can comfort and give strength despite his stormy nature. She admits to herself that she will miss her, and the young man hugs her even tighter, as if trying to preserve this moment, not letting go, giving a feeling of protection and closeness. He cries out that he is not going to be bored, causing a reaction from his older brother, who gently admonishes him not to harm his younger sister. The older brother asks Engin to stop, otherwise he might strangle her in a fit of emotion, and the tension eases a little, leaving room for calm. Cheshire approaches Ruby, carefully wiping away her tears, and the girl asks him to definitely come, demanding a promise, which he agrees to without hesitation. The brunette confirms that he will come, and the young lady is surprised by the strength of her own survival instinct, which manifests itself even in the strangest and most comical circumstances. She dreamed of eternal sleep, and now, despite this, she has received a second life, almost no different from the first, which forces her to fight with all her might for survival. The girl finds this both funny and tragic, realizing that her desire for life remains unwavering and strong, despite any obstacles. Meanwhile, her husband is in the forest, completely immersed in his tasks, and colleagues note that he watches what is happening with particular attention, as if every detail matters. One of them offers to discuss the situation with Iska, but the man takes off his helmet and refuses, showing his unwillingness to talk at the moment. The blonde, confused, asks what is going on and why he refuses to talk, trying to understand Iska's mood and motives without receiving a clear answer. Iska explains that Helen asked him to refrain from talking, leaving the blonde in shock, not understanding why his sister's request has such a strong influence on his actions. The blonde is amazed that, knowing this, Iska continues to behave this way, wondering about his motives and the reasons for his behavior, which seems strange. Iske answers that it is not his fault that he is weak in front of his sister, while reminding that everyone should know their place and boundaries in a relationship. The blonde is angry, but understands that he has to endure it, and notes that while Iske is busy with business, his fiancé has already arrived, which adds to his irritation. He realizes that Iske isn't interested in dating her and decides to at least eat together to maintain some interaction and not leave her completely alone. Isk notices that there will be a lot of people around the girl even without him, and asks the blonde if that's not the case, to which he receives confirmation and understanding of the situation. The blonde man claims to be a paladin who protects the north, and Iske only asks him to stop talking nonsense, wanting to focus on important matters and not be distracted by empty talk. The young man notes that there will be a lot of people around her, and without his intervention everything will be under control, and the blonde only agrees, realizing that there is some truth in this. Iske again asks to stop the idle talk so that he can concentrate on what is happening, realizing that actions are more important than words, especially in such tense moments. After this, the young man begins to shout loudly, swear, and insist that he went there solely out of curiosity, wondering if something could have gone wrong. He wanted to see the Pope's famous daughter in person. Isk asks what exactly he didn't like and why, since the blonde man could have met her on the ship himself. At this point, the knights realize that their usual turmoil is starting again, and they continue to act on their own wave. The blonde then calms down, stops being angry, and apologizes, admitting that he went a bit overboard. Isk sighs heavily, and the boy asks if he wants to ask anything else. The boy then asks what it is. The friend explains that he wants to know how much she resembles the portraits and what her character appears to be, because it might be interesting. Isk replies that it is not that important, and his friend adds that it is still better to see her in person. The guy is in a hurry to get ready for his duties as a husband, eagerly moving along this path. He doesn't want to be ridiculed like some character from a Rembrandt painting. The blonde man wonders how long this ridiculous situation will last, and his friend remarks that, judging by the bride's background and appearance, no one seems to believe their marriage will last. The blonde agrees that Iska should have acted earlier with Freya, but then falls silent, realizing that the idiot won't understand anything anyway. He recalls hearing something while escorting the bride to the Omerta castle when Sir Evanston temporarily replaced Iski at the ceremony. The bride suffered from motion sickness throughout the entire journey on the ship, but despite this, she maintained a dignified demeanor. Her bright smile was truly dazzling, just as the rumors about her beauty were. At the same time, the smile looked slightly alarming, which the guy noted for himself. He also noticed that the girl was short. Iski wondered what he was talking about, and the blonde man explained that she wasn't very tall. He demonstrates with his hand, and his colleague asks if the girl is really that small. The blonde says he thinks the bride might have been scared by his intense gaze, and understands that the guy isn't thrilled about the upcoming marriage, but offers to put himself in the girl's shoes. He reminds her that she's there as a hostage, and asks if Iska realizes how lonely and scared she is. Isk asks what happened, and the blonde explains that as a knight of the North, he should understand such things. After all, the angel of the Sistine Chapel becomes the bride of his friend, and he is obliged to treat her with respect. Iske mentions that he once dreamed of killing the Pope, and the blonde explains that the essence of his words boils down to the fact that Iske is now the bride. At this point, someone approaches them and remarks that if the daughter of the Borgia family is famous for her beauty, are they really willing to sell their own country for this? The young man then places the tip of his sheathed sword to his friend's throat. He looks at him menacingly, but the blonde reaches out and grabs him by the ear, screaming at what an ill-mannered scoundrel he is. He's outraged that he could point a sword at his older comrade. The young man defends himself by saying the situation frightened him and he acted unconsciously. The blonde exclaims whether he wants his ears torn off. The young man apologizes and Iski agrees, asking why there is such a fuss. Lorenzo approaches him and says that he will be glad if he marries his older sister after his divorce from the girl from the Borgia family, but before that he asks him to pretend that he does not know his younger sister. The blonde is shocked, and Iski remains silent. Then the blonde cries out, stunned by the words. He demands that the young man express himself clearly, noting the current lack of restraint among young people. Lorenzo apologizes and clarifies that he meant to tell Sir Iske to stay away from his sister for a while. He understands that otherwise, the Borgia witch could torment her and eventually plunge her into eternal sleep. A blonde man asks his colleague if he should watch his mouth, as he's already full of prejudices, even though the milk hasn't even dried on his lips yet. The young man replies that they're not prejudices. That's why the sister, who had peeked into Omerta Castle, locked herself in her room and cried quietly. Iske again asks where the girl went, and the young man explains that she returned to Omerta Castle. When Lady Rudbeckia arrived at the castle, Princess Alina and her sister were already sitting at tea. The blonde understands why sister was so upset after meeting her fiancé, Iski. He's perplexed how Iski could call such a girl a witch, considering she's a true beauty, and neither of them possesses the slightest shred of subtlety. At this point, Lorenzo addresses Sir Iska, but he turns and leaves. The young man wonders where he's headed, as the conversation isn't over yet. The blonde screams, demanding the guy calm down, and Iske explains that today's a rest day, so he left. The colleague understands that this guy's rest comes at the perfect time, and he doesn't care about anyone else. At this time, the other knights decide to pretend that they do not hear anything, trying not to interfere. The blonde man watches Iske walk away. The main character recently sat over a cup of tea with a girl who told her that the young lady had suffered severe seasickness during a sea voyage. The young lady just smiled and explained that it was simply her first time setting out on such a long voyage. She's a little ashamed to admit it, since she's never left the southern lands. The silver-haired girl reassures her, saying there's nothing shameful about it. She too never left Arendelle, and Rudbeckia, looking at the young lady, is amazed by her beauty. Alina van Omerta is Iske's younger sister, and her beauty seems almost illegitimate in the eyes of the gods created for perfection. The girl asks if Lady Rudbeckia liked the food, as they thought that after the journey her stomach might be sensitive, so light dishes were prepared. The main character replies that everything is fine, she likes the food, and it seems she was just overly nervous. She thanks the girl for her concern. Rudbeckia understands that, light fare or not, the lady will soon return to her usual routine. Alina adds that every summer, spider-like monsters, archons, begin to terrorize their lands, and her brother has asked her to be careful, as he might be delayed. Her father is away on estate business and won't be back until the end of the month, and Alina is worried they haven't been able to give him a warm welcome. Rebecca reassures them that everything is fine and there's no need to worry. The main character explains that after her mother fell into eternal sleep, she took on all the household chores. Now the lady can rearrange everything at her own discretion, and if something seems inconvenient or unpleasant to her, can convey instructions through the senior maid. The main character ponders. She feels awkward being called a mistress, but thanks for the support and says she would like to leave things as they are for now. She is not yet accustomed to local traditions and is afraid that her inexperience will cause harm. Alina asks if the young lady should worry, since now no one would dare to think that way about the mistress. Rudbeckia thinks that such an honorable tone makes her uncomfortable, and even uncomfortable. Then she admits that she has a small request, and Alina invites her to speak frankly without embarrassment. Rudbeckia asks if we can just call her Ruby for a while. The maid is slightly surprised, and the main character reflects that she doesn't know anyone here, and this may sound a little unusual. Now she is a little scared. She does not know how to adapt to the local customs, but she thinks that if Alina is closer, it will give her courage. The silver-haired lady agrees, and the main character is shocked and wonders if this is really true. To this, Rudbeckia thanks the girl with a bright smile, but a moment later, when Alina's hand twitches, she immediately pulls away, feeling awkward. She screams, apologizing for her tactlessness, and Alina reassures her that nothing terrible happened. Then the young lady decides to ask if it's okay to call the girl simply Helen. The silver-haired Helen smiles and agrees. They both understand that after this they should be able to talk to each other freely, and Rudbeckia breathes a sigh of relief. She notes that excessive modesty is not helpful and can lead to misunderstandings, and adds that it is better to be open. The main character wonders whether Rudbeckia is talking about misunderstanding as an opportunity to show her true face, rather than hide it behind a mask. Alina realizes that her goal is not to attract undue attention, but to appear harmless, naive, and not like the rumors say she is. Rudbeckia understands the importance of maintaining composure and admits that she is used to misunderstandings, but is willing to try to avoid them in the future. Alina says that if Rudbeckia has finished her meal, she would like to show her to her room. After some time, the main character sees a luxurious room and is surprised to think that this is really her new home. Alina explains that they tried to decorate it for the lady, although they are not sure whether she will like it. Rudbeckia happily replies that she really likes the room and that she has always dreamed of having a sea view from her window. Alina notes that the girl is probably tired after the journey and advises her to rest, but Rudbeckia interrupts her, saying that she intends to go straight to bed. Rudbeckia thinks to herself that, thank God, her goal is not at all love for her future husband. Meanwhile, the maid watches the girl cautiously. That evening, Rudbeckia wakes up and sneezes. She notices how cold it is in the room and thinks that even in the north it can be too cold. The young lady looks at the fireplace and is surprised that the fire has gone out, because there are plenty of monsters in the north. Every night, sacred fires had to burn there, which could not go out on their own without intervention. The main character wonders if there is at least a little fire left, and who could have played such a joke on her. She remembers the maid's look and wonders if it could have been her, when suddenly she hears someone growl. Turning around, Rudbeckia sees a monster that instantly flies towards her. In horror, the girl falls to the floor, ordering the creature not to come closer. She understands that she needs to run, but her body doesn't obey, and she screams again for the monster to not come closer. One of the maids runs into the room, addressing her mistress, but at the sight of the monster, she herself becomes frightened and screams. At this moment, Sister Iski appears. When she turns to Rudbeckia, someone cuts the monster apart, and the main character is terribly frightened. Opening her eyes, she sees that the danger has been eliminated and turns to the man with the sword. She realizes that it is Iski, who is looking at her with disdain. He simply asks why she turned off the sacred fire. Rudbeckia is shocked and wonders if he mistook it for her trick, and explains that she did nothing of the sort. Isuke claims that he believes the girl has already attracted too much attention. He asks if she wants to use this as an excuse to end the marriage. Rudbeckia understands that she expected displeasure, but not to this extent, and reassures herself that everything will be fine with the lady. Meanwhile, Elena asks her brother not to attack Rudbeckia so suddenly, because they don't yet know who is really to blame. Even if it was Rudbeckia, perhaps she simply did not understand the rule, since in Romania, sacred fires are not lit. The main character thinks that Helen is a real cutie, and if necessary, she will protect her at the cost of her own life. The girl hides behind the silver-haired lady, explaining that she was very cold. The man demands to speak louder. Rudbeckia explains that she woke up to find the lights out and asks if someone else could have done it, perhaps sister or himself. Elena turns to her brother, and the young lady apologizes and admits that she seems to have accidentally turned off the lights in her sleep. She is sorry for causing trouble and promises that it will not happen again. Rudbeckia, with tears in her eyes, swears that she will not repeat the mistake again, and the man with silver hair says that he wants to ask a question. The young lady asks what exactly, but the man remains silent and then says that it's nothing, let him forget it. Rudbeckia ponders what he wanted to ask and thinks that since he started, he should finish, because who leaves unfinished thoughts? The next day, the young lady sat at dinner with Elena but realized that she was not eating anything. Even trying to eat immediately caused nausea, and after what happened, her stomach was in a state of unrest. Rudbeckia silently prayed for someone to tell her it was just a dream. Elena, meanwhile, noticed her anxiety. Afterwards, she assured her that such a thing wouldn't happen again, and the main character, slightly surprised, asked what she was talking about. The girl explained that she was talking about Ruby waking up from the cold. The main character realized that the girl realized that the criminal was someone else, and now she thanks her for her concern. The silver-haired lady informed her that Ruby would have to attend a reception at the royal court in 4 days, and that if she needed help, she could call her any time. Rudbeckia remembered that the reception had indeed taken place. She realized that in this marriage the royal family acted as matchmakers, and the reception was held in honor of the wedding anniversary of the king and queen. The young lady turned to Elena, asking if it were not too much trouble to introduce the dressmaker separately. The outfits she brought were only popular in the north, so they would stand out too much here, and she had also heard that fashion was somewhat different here. Elena agreed with Ruby's observation, apologized, and admitted that she should have thought of it earlier, after which she promised to call a dressmaker. Rudbeckia understood that she could be understood. In such circumstances, everyone was betting on when her marriage might fall apart. But despite everything, she had to try to leave a good impression on the important people on the day of the reception, although the main person, her husband, had already managed to remember her unpleasantly. The young lady remembered his face and realized that she would have to put in a lot of effort. After some time, the girl walked with a basket of fruit and realized that she had arrived, but she anxiously wondered if her husband would be angry. The reason for her going to the temple, despite Elena's request, was one to find out the character of her husband. And she remembered that the main goal was not to end up in eternal sleep at his hands. The girl decided to appear as harmless as possible, like a rabbit. Only in this way did she have a kind of insurance in case she couldn't avoid falling into Elena's eternal sleep. She was poisoned because she became engaged to the prince of the state of Dorias. The Pope had a strained relationship with the prince, and the Borgia family was famous for its secret immersions in eternal sleep, so no one could suspect them. And it was absurd to so thoughtlessly poison a man in such a situation. Although their family was strange, the chances of getting out of this situation without losses were extremely small, and even if she had warned in advance that Elena could be poisoned, the doctor would hardly have believed the chatter of the young Borgia princess. The girl was sure that her father had spies stationed around Arundel, so she couldn't say everything, otherwise exposure would be inevitable. The thought of being sent back home terrified her. She was afraid to even imagine what she would have to face there. At that moment, someone addressed the young lady, and she felt a tremor from the unexpected question, frightened by the unknown. The one who spoke wanted to say something, but the guy only clarified who she was. causing slight confusion in the girl. He introduced himself as Lady Rebecca and said that he had been a member of the defending squad yesterday, which left her with mixed feelings. At the port of Elmos, the main character admitted that she recognized him and immediately apologized for her rudeness, trying to smooth over the awkwardness of the moment. The man noted that it was clear from the detachment that she did not recognize him immediately, and then asked what kind of dialogue took place there. The girl was slightly embarrassed and admitted that she had simply overheard the conversation without going into details. She mentioned that her husband was there, which left the man surprised and confused as to whether the young lady had really come there for Iski. He nevertheless turned to her, confirming that yes, that meant she had come to visit that idiot, as he put it. The girl confirmed this, and the blonde asked to wait just a few seconds, creating a slight pause. He hurried to his colleague and cried out that his wife had arrived, wondering if he had gone deaf since he had said that his wife was there. All the knights took notice and began discussing whether this was the same Lady Rebecca. The blonde man, screaming, demanded they move away, as he had ordered them to hide in the corner. The girl thought his tongue was not nearly as noble as his appearance. At that moment, Iske came up from behind and asked why she had come, and the main character didn't immediately find what to answer. She wondered why everyone was appearing suddenly and convinced herself that she was just imagining things. She had the feeling that he was unhappy with her in the morning, but the man just turned around, smiling, showing that everything was fine. He looked calm and confident, as if blooming and fragrant, and could have left, but the girl grabbed him by the sleeve, begging him to wait. The man turned around abruptly, and the fruit fell to the ground, making Rebecca think that all was lost. Helen said that these fruits were very expensive, and although there was still time according to the 3-second rule, the situation seemed critical. He asked what she was doing, and the young lady thought that it should be her remark, because the man saw only himself and what was happening around him. The girl apologized and explained that she had come to give him some fruit, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. Isk asked who said that he was interested in this, and was surprised why she was picking up something that had fallen from the floor, and the girl thought that he should bend down himself. But then she realized that there was a better tactic, and she burst into tears, apologizing for the discomfort she had caused, because she just wanted to clear up the misunderstanding. Rebecca realized she could have been nominated for an Oscar for Best Actress, and the man asked what misunderstanding they were talking about. She replied that he himself had said she was making up excuses for ending their marriage. And she understands that he thinks so, and it's obvious that he hates her. However, the man wonders who said it. That he hates her, and the young lady claims that she meant that he doesn't like her. So the man replies that it's not true, and the girl asks if it's true. She realizes that the tears have backfired, and that she needs to change her tactics. After which Rebecca asks again if this is true, and he answers that it is. The young lady then asks if this is how it was actually done. But the man no longer responds to this, and the girl realizes that she has gone too far with her joy. Iske then puts his hand on his head and says what the hell he's doing now. Rebecca apologizes, but she herself thinks that this means how. And she, full of determination, decided to go for it, but who would have thought that he would show such a reaction the first time? At this time, Iske helps her collect fruits and claims that he does not need it, so she should not do any more stupid things. The young lady then wants to tell him something else, but the man interrupts her and says that he will tell her right away so that she will not be mistaken. After all, he wouldn't give a damn if this clowning ended today, and he simply doesn't want to see people who use their brains so ineptly, so let her stop joking with him. And it would be better if she wrote a letter home asking them to take her back. The main character then wonders, is that really possible? Pretending to be poor in front of her husband didn't work, and she doesn't think he's the kind of person who would spare her tears. However, at that moment, he obviously thought that by engaging in a verbal altercation with her, he would only show his infantile side. And if she does something obvious or trivial, then he will not suspect her. Then the girl insists she doesn't want to do it. She also realizes she needs to strike again, after which she screams that she has fallen in love with him. The blonde is with the other knights. At this time, they turn to the young lady in shock, and the main character only smiles. And he understands that even angels fall from her acting. However, Iske only asks irritably, "What is she talking about?" After which the girl, a little puzzled, claims that she understands perfectly well that he has heard these words very often, and that she may not be to his liking, but he was the first to save her from danger, as it was yesterday. And she doesn't want anything, but asks if he will allow her to give him at least the slightest help, because he said that he hates her. The girl understands that this is true, because she is his fan, although, to be more precise, an anti-fan, and if her actions are obvious and unremarkable, then she will have hope. At this time, the knights are just saying how brave the girl is, and the young lady is looking at Iski. Well, in shock, she realizes he's leaving, and also cries out that she will never be pushy again and promises this. Then she only hears the door slam. And she thinks what an insensitive blockhead this man is, but be that as it may, it's time for her to finish today, because she's almost not there anymore. A little while later, the maid tells the mistress that everything is ready, and the main character understands that today has finally arrived. Since that day, Isk hasn't even shown his nose, although Helen said that the paladins have a lot of things to do in the summer. Now the young lady meets that same Helen, and the girl addresses her, and also says that she is going out about him. They have already completed the preparations for the reception, and the main character wonders if such a goddess could possibly have almost married their wicked Injin. Rudbeckia also understands that such a thing cannot be allowed, even if the heavens themselves collapse, and besides, Helen, as promised, continues to call her by her affectionate nickname. So now the young lady turns to her and says, by the way, what kind of lady is next to her? Elena tells the girl to get acquainted, because this is an old friend of their family, Freya van Furiana. The girl then greets Lady Rudbeckia and says that it is a pleasure to meet her, and the young lady realizes that here is that very childhood friend. The maid, after all, was happily chatting about something at that time, and Rudbeckia thinks that, as you can see, they treat her completely differently than they treat her, because the maid's eyes are literally shining with happiness. The main character replies that she is also glad to meet you, and Freya turns to her friend and confirms. She didn't tell her that Iska's wife was such a wonderful person. Helen then claims the girl is speaking as if she said something strange. Then Freya turns around and looks coldly at the main character. Rudbeckia wonders if there's something wrong with her outfit. Annalena turns to Ruby and claims that her brother said that he might be late, so he asked her for understanding, because this happens to him quite often. Rudbeckia replies that it is clear and there is nothing to worry about, so Helen should not worry about herself. She understands that he and understanding are not even close to each other. But, be that as it may, and even though it's late, she would still like Iske to come, otherwise, when will she have to work on her image? A little while later, the girl already arrives at the royal court and then goes into the hall with the aristocrats. Rudbeckia also understands that for some reason she was reminded of the receptions in Romagna, namely the people, who showed kindness to her and to Julie's mistress in order to get to know her father and brothers. And despite her inner self, she was the object of envy and imitation for many. Therefore, the girl constantly wondered what others would think of her if her miserable life came to light, and how they would trample her into the dirt this time. Now the young lady understands that, squeezed between two models, she feels like a toddler, and cannot believe that she is short there too. But at that very moment, someone addresses Lady Rudbeckia, and when the main characters turn around, yes, one of the men asks how His Holiness is doing, and then the aristocrats begin to whisper that she is the wife of the Knight of Omerta. Meanwhile, the man inquires about the health of His Holiness's league, and also about Cardinal Valentino's plans to visit Arundel. The girl realizes she herself is unaware, but Elena claims she's shocked by this idol. The main character then looks at her in shock, and he thinks about what the girl just said. Freya, meanwhile, waves her hand toward Isa, and when the man notices her, he turns around. The main character also misses him and thinks she misunderstood, and also wonders if he was late. And was he really just pulling the wool over her eyes so as not to cross paths with her again? But when the girl waves to him, the guy just turns around, and she realizes that she knew it. Freya then turns to the lady and offers to go and scold him. But the woman confirms that he will listen to them with all his might, and what is the point of that? And after this, the main character just clenches her fists and heads towards him, and also understands. The entire universe already knows how heartlessly Isuke behaved towards her, no matter what she does. She'll be disgraced there, so the girl realizes she should go to the foam rubber. Everyone then looks at the young lady in shock. And the girl at this time, with a smile on her face, says that she is very glad to see her husband, and he is still simply dazzling today. The aristocrats are then a little surprised, and the young lady wonders if they thought she would slap him. Of course she would like to, but alas, it won't suit her concept of a harmless rabbit. At this time, the man only looks at her angrily and then turns around. He also claims that it seems his wife has neither ingenuity nor decency. Rebecca apologizes for interfering, but if she hadn't, he would have. However, the man simply insists that she herself told him she wouldn't nag him. And the main character asks if he really remembered, which means he listened to her then. Isk then asks what she is talking about, and the young lady thanks him and claims that she will not bother him anymore, and she'll continue to watch him from a distance. Rebecca thinks that's enough, and it's time to take a break. However, at that very moment, the man grabs her and asks what she was going to do, hiding to the side. The main character replies that she will look at him and follow him, but so that he does not notice her, and Isk asks if she really wanted to plunge into a crippled sleep, to which the young lady replies that she does not. And he wonders what happened and how their dialogue took this turn. At this point, the man asks why she is going to do this, and the girl replies that she just wants to see him, but he doesn't want to cause any inconvenience. The young lady also thinks about how painfully he squeezed her shoulder, and he also wonders if he is really considering the fact that she wants to secretly plunge him into eternal sleep, and whether he considers this logical. And for her, it's like entering into eternal sleep with her own hands. The blonde man at this time turns to Lady Rebecca and claims that her actions were very dangerous. The young lady then asks what he's talking about, and the guy replies that he means that the guy almost thought about it. That she is attempting on his life, however, that is not all, and as she herself knows, the North is a very dangerous place. Therefore, they are somewhat different from other knights in their body structure. So if she had been there when they released the sacred energy and the ball's energy to the maximum, in order to find the demonic energy that possesses, monsters would not distinguish it from monsters, and they plunged him into eternal sleep. The girl also recalls hearing that when a paladin's sacred energy or sword energy reaches its maximum, a state of extreme agitation ensues. Although, in fact, she meant that she was going to follow her husband like a little tail, only in safe places. And now the girl asks for forgiveness for her tactlessness, because she is simply from the south. The blonde then asks who doesn't say that, because it's normal if she didn't know. Now he asks Iski if that's true, but he just remains silent, and the blonde says that this idiot should at least say something. The girl also thinks that this idiot should let go of her shoulder first, and also apologizes and claims that she in no way wanted to put them in an awkward situation. Yelena turns to her brother and says that he should have told her in advance if the schedule had changed. Freya replies that this is true, because he could have stopped by home and such beauties were waiting for him there, so how can he be so ungrateful? However, the young man only looks furiously at the main character, and she wonders what he is going to do now. However, his reaction this time was quite interesting, because she thought that the guy, like then, would simply ignore the words and walk away. Iske is about to say something but announces that His Majesty the King is coming. After which the King of the State of Britain, named Pianol, enters the room. The man turns to Lady Rebecca and says that it must have been very difficult for her to travel such a long way, so he thanks the girl for her presence. Rebecca replies that she too is very grateful for such a warm welcome. And His Majesty smiles after this, and also claims that his nephew rarely shows up to his receptions on time. And apparently, with marriage, the guy's brains fall into place, after which he asks Iske if this is true. Well, the guy just says, like father, like son, and the man insists he believes it, even whining and saying he doesn't want to hear it. Iske insists he's not blaming anyone, and that he stabbed himself in the back, so he'll have to accept it as his fate. After which he looks at the main character again and turns around and leaves. Rudbeckia understands that he is back in his element because he has the same daring character as Cheshire. The girl also notices the other aristocrats and thinks that they are doing the right thing by laughing, because even if her husband leaves her, he seems to be the fool who will be made fun of. At this time, the king cries out what a scoundrel the young man is, and if he weren't the offspring of Sister Isis. The queen then tells His Majesty to calm down, otherwise the melody will frighten him. Afterwards, the main character sees their daughter. The woman addresses the little girl and tells her that she shouldn't look at people like that. And you should also greet her politely. The girl then greets Lady Rudbeckia at the royal palace of Angwan. The main character then thanks Princess Arian and thinks how cute she is. But this is one of the few medicines that heals her soul in this world. Having seen the princess in person, she understands why she appeared so rarely in the original novel. King Pinal loved both the queen and the princess madly, but he could not give them to his daughter, who was a pagan, the same position as other princesses, and even more. Because Arian is Iska and Yelen's cousin, she will forever remain a stranger. In the high society of the British Empire, Rudbeckia understands that in this and that world, she is in an unsuitable position to sympathize with someone, but the girl is so similar to her. A little while later, the main character is already sitting at the table, and Freya also sits down at his side. Yelena asks if the girl went anywhere, and she replies that she was simply trying to get Iski back. But now he is listening to her words with the wrong place, and the young lady is wondering where his knightly morals are. Yelena replies that it's pointless, and asks if her brother ever pretends to listen to them. Freya then asks if the girl thinks so. She then turns to Mrs. Rudbeckia and asks if she enjoys horseback riding. The protagonist replies that, yes, it's true, her skills aren't very good. Freya tells the girl not to worry, because she is just glad that she loves horse riding, and the main character understands that this is complete nonsense. In her past life, she had studied several secular sports, but she had no good memories of any of them. At this time, one of the women at the table asserts that no one will be able to keep up with the skill of these two ladies. Since Sir Iske himself personally trained them, she asks the lady why she doesn't ask him to help her. But Freya replies that it was in childhood, and, besides, she simply has a natural talent. Lady Consolation and Alex that she is right, and let Lady Furiana not misunderstand her. The main character understands that the look on this woman's face indicates that she is having a lot of fun and is obviously interested in the relationship between her and Freya. Rudbeckia understands that, but she doesn't care, and all that is required of her is to look like a fool who wouldn't hurt a fly. So now she thanks him for his words of concern, but insists that she cannot take up her husband's precious time over such trifles. The woman then says that's how it is, after which someone decides to change the subject and states that the summer is already coming to an end, and she asks if Sir Iski is participating in the swordsman's tournament this year. Another woman asks if the tournament is planned to start earlier than usual this time, and she is certainly looking forward to the tournament but thinks that with Sir Iski participating, the winner will be obvious. Another lady claims that no one knows how the competition will go this year, and she is more interested in who will become the Flower of Honor this time. Rudbeckia is certain Cheshire will appear in the upcoming swordsmanship tournament. This tournament is held every 3 years in Arendelle. It is also a large-scale event, which boasts the longest history on the continent. Therefore, it attracts participants and spectators from various countries. The essence of the swordsmanship tournament is a match against aggressive monsters, and only members of high society are allowed to participate in such a fierce competition. And to prevent any incidents at the tournament, a committee is set up, consisting entirely of clergy. Cheshire, under the pretext of being a member of the committee, is making a statement. He will arrive there to meet the young woman, or even now the girl is swearing in her thoughts, and also understands that she is already fed up with her husband. That same evening, the young lady heads to her room and realizes that because she drank alcohol on an empty stomach, her head is spinning, and she cannot vomit because there are so many people there. But then someone bumps into a girl and then apologizes. The young lady wonders why everyone is grabbing her shoulder today. At this time, the guy asks if she is okay, to which the girl replies that she is, and asks who he is. The young man replies that his name is Lorenzo van Furiana, and that she was recently with his older sister. Lorenzo asks if everything is really okay with the girl, and the main character realizes that she knew that he was Freya's brother, and it seemed to her that they were very similar. At this time, the guy asks to be taken to the banquet hall, and the young lady replies that she is fine. And I just wanted to get some fresh air, and he turns out to be a paladin. But then the young lady wonders why he's looking at her with such small eyes. Lorenzo claims that Sir Iski would laugh if he heard her, since he's still just a student. Rudbeckia thinks that it's amazing, because he openly expresses his hostility towards her, and even the level of hostility towards Iske was off the charts so much. And this guy directly says that he hates her more than anyone else present. The young man apologizes and claims he still can't believe he's seeing Sir Iski's wife in person. The girl, however, insists his words make it sound like she's a famous person. Lorenzo asks if there is anyone in this world who does not know her name, since she is the daughter of His Holiness the Pope. Rudbeckia asks if this is true, because she doesn't know about her brothers, but she is not particularly famous in public, and his words surprised her a little. After that, the two of them are silent, and the guy claims that, to tell the truth, among the songs that have been popular recently, there is one about her. The young woman then asks if he's serious, and the guy replies that it seems like she's never heard of it before and asks if she'd like to hear the lyrics. The girl replies that of course she'd be interested too. And the guy then claims that the lyrics to the composition are like this, and they say that it is for the lark Sextina. She can't find the right man, and as for him, her stepbrothers are pretty good. The young man then wants to say something else. But at that very moment, the blonde grabs him by the ear and screams that he is a fucking psycho, and he told him not to talk nonsense. Lorenzo then tries to utter the word wait, but the blonde only screams at him to quickly apologize before he takes his mouth off. The guy then starts to object, but his interlocutor only cries out whether he thought of arguing with his elders. After which the young man asks him to forgive him, and the blonde screams that they can hear and let him do it louder. The main character says that it's okay and the guy can let him go, and also thinks that she doesn't really want to listen to apologies. After which the blonde man lets the young man go, and he immediately runs away. The guy says what a fool he is, and the main character thinks Lorenzo is a real rat. Meanwhile, the blonde man addresses the young lady, and he says he feels very bad for what happened. The young lady then says everything is fine, and the blonde asks her not to misunderstand his friend, as the idiot was simply deluded and mad, because no one would dare write such an irreverent song. Rudbeckia then tells Sir Ivan that she really is fine, and besides, this is far from the first time she's heard such rumors. However, when the man looks at the young lady's face, he sees that she's crying and, shocked, asks what's wrong with her. The girl then apologizes and claims she was just thinking. Doesn't her husband believe such rumors about the guy? He replies that of course not. And what is she saying? Because he is a blockhead by nature and is not interested in other people's conversations. And what's more, he has a tendency to leave those who annoy him alone, so recently he was very surprised. Well, the blonde then says so the girl won't think anything of it, because he didn't mean to imply that she was being annoying. Rudbeckia asks if he's serious, and does that mean Sir Eske doesn't like her? The boy replies that he absolutely wouldn't, and how could he dare show dislike towards her? After all, he was simply confused, because this happened to him for the first time, and the girl then asks if she can love him with all her heart, to which the young man cries out that of course, because for such an idol as Iske, this is simply an honor. After which, the guy looks a little embarrassed by what he said, and offers to take her to the banquet hall. Rudbeckia says no, she just wanted to get some fresh air anyway, and the guy agrees, also insisting that what if that idiot Lorenzo shows up again? Then let the girl tell him right away. And the main character then thanks Sir Ivan with a smile on her face. And he wonders if he really cares about her, and it seems like at least he still has a drop of chivalrous morals left. The girl would not say that Sir Ivan's words made her very happy, but if what he said about Iska was really true. then perhaps she still has hope, and who knows, maybe her chances of survival will be higher if things continue like this. A little while later, the girl is already heading somewhere and wondering what other illusions Freya's younger brother has fallen into. After all, she is not sure that it was because of some rumors that he showed her such strong hostility, so the girl wonders if this has anything to do with Freya. Then the young lady goes outside, and he notices that someone is sitting behind the statue, after which he wonders if it is Princess Arian. The girl then looks out from behind the statue and asks not to say anything to her mother. And the main character realizes that the little girl apparently left without asking, and their princess turns out to be a naughty girl, after which she claims that she won't tell her anything. He also asks if the girl did anything, but she just hides behind the statue. And the main character realizes that Arian seems to be a very wary child. After which she thinks that he will not bother her and will go to another place, but suddenly he does not address it. And she says she can't be there alone. It turns out it's the princess, and she insists. That love is only created when two people are together. The main character looks ahead and wonders if she's even thinking about it. It's hard to believe that there is such a pond in the royal court, and they are surprisingly romantics, although the king himself is one. The young lady then asks if love is really created there, and the little girl replies that she doesn't know, but her nanny says that there are elves living in the pond who give love. The main character thinks how sweet it is that the girl believes in fairy tales, after which she turns to the little girl, and he asks if she's holding a bouquet. The little girl asks if it's pretty, and the main character replies that yes, and it's very charming. After which he asks who the princess is going to give it to, and the little girl looks at the main character's hair. And he says that if Lady Rebecca allows him to touch her hair, she will give her this bouquet. The young lady wonders if the girl is taking her hair for a toy, but she understands that even though she is so young, she understands everything. After which the girl hands over her hair and says that of course, she can touch it as much as she wants. Arian then says, not now, but later, to which the young lady agrees and says she can do as she's told. But then someone approaches the princess, and it turns out to be Iska. This frightens the main character, and she also thinks how she's so fed up with this, why the hell does he keep appearing behind her back? The girl also understands that, okay, she almost shit herself there, but when she looks at the baby, then she thinks why she is afraid of Iske, because he is her cousin. At this time, the man claims that His Majesty is looking for the young lady and that he told her last time not to turn alone. The little girl then simply holds out the flowers to Rebecca's hand and then runs away as fast as she can. The main character then turns to the princess in shock, and Iske insists that it's the first one, that it's the second one. They're not listening to anyone. Rebecca wonders who's mooing, after which he asks if he was looking for the princess. The guy replies that, of course not, after which he turns to the young lady and says that he was looking for her. The girl is a little surprised after this and thinks why he needs her, since he himself left her alone. So the young lady wonders why, but when he comes closer, she thinks, could he not approach her? And is he really going to hit her in a deserted place? After which the young lady closes her eyes and thinks that if he just saves her life, then everything will be fine. At this time, the guy asks what she is doing, and also whether she is really the princess of Romania. I was also beaten as a child. After this, the main character only laughs nervously and thinks, how can you not shit your pants when he approaches you so frighteningly? And the man at this time claims that she just recently said that she wanted to look at him on the sly. Rebecca replies that you can just watch, and the guy asks if this is true. And he wonders why she then closes her eyes, and also why Lena was hoping for a kiss. And the main character smiles after this and thinks that now she needs to choose her words wisely, because who knows, and maybe if she says that she was hoping for a kiss, he will kill her right there. However, there are a ton of ways to get out of this situation, and the girl claims she just thought he was angry with her because of what happened recently. She asks if she thought he'd hit her, but she remains silent. And the man asks if, despite all this, she still likes him. The young lady then asks if she might like him and says that he was the first one to protect. However, at that very moment, someone turns to Sir Iska. The guy asks what's going on, and the other knight replies that he thinks he should go himself. after which Iski follows him, and the main character realizes that she is saved. However, after this, the guy stops and tells the girl to wait for him there. The main character then just waves to him and wonders why he wants her to wait there, and also whether he hasn't finished yet. After which, the young lady sits down on a bench and says that these flowers are called rudbeckia, and they have the same name as her name, and in the language of flowers it means eternal happiness. So the girl thinks how ironic it sounds, but suddenly the young lady starts to fall backwards. A young lady falls somewhere and thinks that it is cold there, and also wonders if she will really fall into eternal sleep like this, and the thing is also for a sad ending. These are the thoughts that should be running through her head right now. However, strangely enough, she feels no fear. The young lady also tries to get out and thinks that it feels like they just want to play with her, but she still thinks why this thing doesn't come off, because if it continues like this, she will suffocate. Then someone grabs the young lady and pulls her out of the water. The girl is breathing heavily, and when she opens her eyes, then she sees that Iske has saved her. All the aristocrats then come out into the street and start whispering. The main character, shocked, wonders what just happened. She also looks at Iski, who looks at her coldly in response and understands that she thinks a monster pulled her into the water. However, the girl is also interested in where the monsters appeared in the center of the royal palace. Although this is not even what worries her, and the biggest problem now is this guy in front of her eyes. The young lady also wonders if he will think that she deliberately threw herself into the water in the same way, just like in that incident with the sacred fire, after which she thinks about what to say. But she only cries out that she was very scared, and he saved her again, therefore he is her only savior. The girl also wondered if he thought that this time he would be able to accuse her again, and the guy after that only remained silent and sighed. The next morning, the maid knocks on her mistress's room and asks if she is awake, to which the young lady agrees and also tells her to come in. A woman comes inside and claims to have brought the lady breakfast. Rudbeckia replies that she shouldn't have. After all, she feels unwell in her stomach, to which the maid agrees, and the main character is interested. Where Alina, to which the maid replies that my lady left early in the morning, after which they ask permission to take their leave. Rudbeckia thinks how insensitive they are, just like icicles. Then the girl climbs into the bathtub, and she thinks how warm it is there. The girl also reflects on yesterday's incident and realizes that they caused a similar commotion. Everyone was thrown into confusion by the fact that a monster had attacked a person inside the royal court, which required the strictest protection. And as far as she knows, monsters do not appear in the center of Arendelle, and there was a similar situation, and with that monster that burst into her room through the window. In short, suspicious monsters are a dime a dozen. In the novel, monsters didn't appear from every corner, so the young lady wonders why she's the only one getting it, and also realizes that in the original, this didn't happen to Ruby. But at this rate, she could be falsely identified as a witch luring monsters. After which the young lady gets dressed but then sneezes and realizes that moreover, after she fell into the pond, these symptoms continue to happen to her. It feels like everything inside her is burning, like her body is being pierced with needles. Since her soul ended up in this book body, these strange symptoms have appeared twice a year, and when she said she felt unwell, she'd been experiencing them. The family called a doctor to see her for the first time, but he insisted that there was no fever or any abnormalities. Her father asked how this was possible, since she was sick, and the man replied that he himself could not understand what the problem was. After which he asked the Pope for his farewell. The other doctors said the same thing. After which the man approached his beautiful daughter and, placing his hand on her forehead, asked, did she lie to her father because she didn't want to get engaged? After this, the young lady had no choice but to endure it, but she had even gotten used to doing it, and besides, these symptoms would disappear in a few days and she simply needed to overcome herself. Otherwise, she's afraid that her husband will think that she, like her, doesn't plan such a thing, and in short, there's no point in calling a doctor. Besides, it seemed to her that she felt better after she had been lying in bed the whole first half of the day, so then the girl wonders why the guy then asked her to wait. After all, whatever the reason, it's somehow strange that a person who, it would seem, would not budge from his spot gave her such an opportunity, although in the end, a monster interfered with everything. The girl puts it in my comb and understands that, in short, strike while the iron is hot. After which the young lady comes out of her room and sees the knights there. And the girl begins to stare at them. These two understand that the young lady is about to drill into their souls, after which they turn to the mistress, and they ask if she wanted something, to which the young lady apologizes for interrupting, after which she asks if they happen to know where her husband is now. The knight doesn't even know how to say it, but the main character says that she understands, and obviously they can't tell her, after which the two exchange glances. And when the girl is in the port of Elmos, she thanks them and claims that she will never forget their kindness, and the man thinks that he does not even know what Sir Iska will say if he finds out about this. A little while later, the main character approaches one of the windows and wonders if Iske is really there. And what is he doing there? And is he really having some important negotiations? Well then, one of the knights with a glass in his hand. He screams that he needs to drink to the bottom and that alcohol is simply amazing during the day. The main character then thinks she thought too highly of him and that this is definitely not a negotiation. After which the young lady wonders if they are really knights. But now she looks like some kind of spy. The girl also thinks that it is quite difficult to survive there, after which she tries to find her husband. And when he finally sees it, he understands that the object has been detected, and the next problem is that how can she get close to him? And now the girl just says what an arrogant guy he is. But then someone asks who she is talking about, and the young lady gets a little scared and then turns around. And she sees one of the knights in front of her. Rebecca wonders who he is, and she's also shocked and scared. The girl realizes she almost died just now, although it seems to her that she has already seen this knight somewhere, after which she understands that this was the student who was looking for Iski by the pond. The boy apologized for frightening her, and he says he just thought she was hiding from someone. The young lady wonders if that's why he followed her. This guy is also unique, but she doesn't feel the same way from him. A strange hostility towards her, like Lorenzo's. The guy asks if the young lady is okay, and Rebecca replies yes, thanks him for his concern, and smiles. The guy smiles back. He says he's very glad she's doing well. The young lady then thinks he looks just like a cute puppy, while the young man insists he's Sir Iska's apprentice. The girl replies that she thought so and asks how long he's been serving her husband. The guy replies that he looks just like a cute puppy and that the previous student caused mischief, and that he was lucky to take his place. The main character then asks what he means by made a mess, and the guy replies that he sang an obscene song in front of Sir Iski. The main character then wonders if this is the same song that Lorenzo spat on her, or maybe this guy, like Lorenzo, is thinking of feeling her out. The young man asks why she's hiding there, and the main character thinks that maybe she was mistaken, after which she claims that she did not come to meet her husband, she just wanted to look at him, and the guy then replied that he understood. After all, she loves to admire him from afar most of all. After which the main character cannot contain her laughter. The young man wonders if Sir Iski isn't kind to her, since he thinks he'll be upset if she simply leaves. Rebecca wonders what her friend means by kind. The girl also remembers his cold gaze and understands that such an insensitive oak as Iske would not be upset at all. And maybe this guy stopped being nervous because he came to life, receiving a beating from Iski, after which the young lady asks if he thinks so. The guy replies that he is not the type to beg a girl to wait for him, and the young lady asks if he really begged, and the guy insists that she just shouldn't tell Sir Iska about this, otherwise it will be the end for him. The young lady realizes that she knew all along that Iski would have everyone there on a short leash. After which the girl whispers what they are all doing there, and the guys answer that there was recently an incident in the royal court, and suddenly there were monsters. But then Iski turns to them and says that next time it would be better if the guy lay face down. The two then look at Iski in shock and ask if it's really him. The young lady then, with a smile on her face, says that her husband is simply perfect, and the knight says that the young lady's words are absolutely true. At this moment, someone else addresses the lady, and he says that they were wondering who this bastard Endymion was hiding with and wanted to scold him again. The main character thinks this guy isn't such a saint, and she sees them so worried about him. The young man just smiles and says he'll probably go. Afterwards, he leaves, and the young lady greets Sir Ivan. He asks how she's feeling, as he was worried she was very frightened by what happened at the pond. Rudbeckia replies that she's very pleased he was worried about her, and the guy replies that it's natural, after which he asks if the girl came to meet this ferocious bastard. Iskiyu then looks at her coldly, and the young lady understands that he is, as always, and then apologizes. And she says that she didn't mean to disturb them, and also just wanted to thank them for yesterday. The guy then turns to the lady and says that this blockhead should thank her, because someone like him had the honor of saving his wife, and the guy asks if he is right, and Isuke insists he simply did what he had to. The main character then says he's right, and if she falls into a crippling sleep, I'll put everyone in an awkward position. Isuke asks what she's talking about, and the blonde man tells the young lady not to think that way, and also asks if she would like to have lunch with them. After all, Isuke will be happy too. Rudbeckia asks if she can really join, and whether she won't be a hindrance. And the guy replies that, of course he won't, and she'll do as much as she wants. But then the two of them look at the young lady in shock. Ivan turns to the lady, but the young lady asks what's wrong. Then he sees a red liquid flowing from her nose. And in shock she thinks that, although she may be feeling a little unwell, nothing like this has ever happened before. Ivan then asks if the lady is okay, and the girl replies that there is nothing to worry about. She also thinks how she could have red liquid coming out of her nose in front of Isuke, and she feels so ashamed. After which the young lady begins to fall off her feet, but at that very moment, Isuke grabs her. He also asks why she's so hot. The girl understands that this can't be true, and how did he understand what all the doctors were shaking their heads at? After which, the young lady apologizes and says she didn't do it on purpose. The man asks who she came there with, and the girl replies that she was alone. And the blondes wonder if she really means to say she left the house alone in that state. He also turns to the lady and asks when the doctor will arrive and hands over a handkerchief. The young lady insists that she didn't actually tell anyone anything, as there's no need to call a doctor over such trivial matters. She then apologizes for worrying them, as she's just feeling a little dizzy. Isuke wipes the red liquid from her nose and asks if it's really like that, since she's hot as a stove right now. The blonde guy asks, since when the guy's house has been full of blind people, since the man can barely stand and no one even noticed. The main character realizes it's obvious, and every year she's felt a strange pain. Symptoms that even the most renowned doctors couldn't understand. She simply dismissed them as a side effect of her soul being in someone else's body. However, Isuke just said that she is hot as a stove and even wipes the red liquid from her nose, so she is a little confused but still amazed by him. But then the girl also thinks that she is feeling dizzy and then begins to lose consciousness altogether. Isuke screams for her to wake up, and the blonde man turns to the lady with concern, but she just closes her eyes and thinks that's her limit. A little while later, the girl hears someone crying, and he wonders who is crying so bitterly and whether it is Alina or one of the servants. After which, the young lady opens her eyes and wonders what's going on. Rudbeckia rises from her bed and wonders how long she's been sleeping. And then the girl puts on her slippers and wonders who has been crying so incessantly lately. And also, is it really Alina and the young lady thinking what happened? After which she opens the door to the corridor, and the doctor tells the gentleman that the lady has to for some time. But then he stops and looks at the young lady, and she thinks that they were standing right outside the door. And the main character also wonders if this is really the doctor and realizes, okay, Isuke, why is he staring at her so angrily? The man then asks if the lady is okay, and the young lady replies that she is and wonders who is crying. Isuke asks what she's talking about, and the girl replies that she heard someone's endless crying and was worried that it might be Alina. The two men then exchange glances, and Isuke insists that no one cried, and the main character then thinks, how could anyone? After all, she heard it with her own ears. And why, as luck would have it, is there no crying now? And the young lady claims that this is not a lie because she is sure that she literally just heard it. The guy claims that he didn't say that she lied, and the young lady wonders if he really believed her that easily. At this time, the man turns to the doctor and says that he can walk, after which the doctor obeys and states that he will then look into his room again tomorrow. The young lady wishes him a good journey, but then touches her forehead and thinks that this illness has not yet passed. Isuke lifts the young lady onto his shoulder, and the main character is shocked, wondering what he is doing. And does he really think she's a potato sack? The girl also understands that she thinks she should react like a cutie at such a moment. Afterwards, he says he's a real prince on a white horse, but the guy only claims that she still seems to have a fever. The main character then asks if she's had any red fluid coming out of her nose recently. And the man replies that it was not recently, but 3 days ago, and the girl wonders if 3 days have already passed. After which she apologizes for her importunity, but asks him to hate her. But she thought that was why Helen was crying. The man then claims that Helen is not crying, and the main character replies that it is true. After all, she is the complete opposite of her, but she still has something that she can do well. The guy then asks what it is, but then sighs and says that it doesn't matter. And the main character understands that her ability is to pretend to be an amazing actress. At this time, Isuke looks at her and then extends his hand, but then says that he is okay, and he turns around and says they'll talk later. The girl then thinks that this bastard isn't telling the whole story again, but the guy just slams the door, and the main character thinks how much he annoys her. Rebecca then hears some knocking and wonders what it is. It turns out to be Isuke, and leaning against a column, he sighs heavily. The girl admits she felt unwell for 2 days afterward, and it wasn't her annual illness, but a common fever. A doctor named Sergei said that the lady had become very thin, so she should not skip meals under any circumstances, otherwise she would faint again, so she should definitely eat. The girl also understands that, in general, she concluded that her annual illness coincided with a fever. And perhaps it was all because of the fall of the pond. So now she can understand why she suddenly had a red liquid coming out of her nose, and why Isuke felt that she had a fever. However, the girl wonders why she is so uneasy. And what's more, sitting in confinement in the room, she can't avoid eating. The role is very difficult for her, and on top of all this, Helen constantly comes to her during meals, so she can neither run away nor vomit on the sly. The main character then thinks that her fever has already gone down, and what kind of overprotectiveness is this? But the girl at this time turns to Ruby and claims that everyone was seriously scared when they found out that she lost consciousness. Rebecca says she's sorry for causing trouble and didn't know it would turn out this way, but Alina claims it's her fault. After which she claims that this is the first time she's seen her brother so confused. And the main character realizes that she's a little shocked herself. The speech was 100% sure that he wouldn't give a damn, even if she fell into eternal sleep. In front of his eyes, Alina at this time turns to the young lady and says that, be that as it may, she is glad that the girl is recovering quickly, and if she feels well, would she like to join the horse riding meet this weekend afternoon? Rebecca replies that it will only be a joy for her, and she also thanks Helen for asking her. But the protagonist wonders if she's answered too quickly. The young lady realizes this is a horseback riding meeting where Helen and Freya gather every summer, and it is an excellent opportunity for her to make a good impression on people from local social circles. A little while later, the maid turns to her mistress and asks if that's really enough. Rebecca asks what it is, and whether the girl thinks anything else should be added. The maid then looks at the decorations and states that she is not sure she can express her opinion in this situation. After this, the main character just smiles and tells her to try to choose something for herself, and to take herself by the thorn at the same time. The maid then asks what it means to herself and why she needs it, and the main character replies that it's just because she was looking after her during her illness. Rebecca also understands that this is complete nonsense, since the girl paid almost no attention to her. But now she claims that all this jewelry is too much for her alone anyway. So she asks why she doesn't give the maid a little gift as a thank you, so she can choose what she likes. Well, then the main character also states that although it would be awkward if others found out, she therefore suggests that this little secret remain between them. The maid takes one of the hairpins, and the main character realizes that she knew she liked this one. But in fact, it doesn't matter to her that the girl will take it, because Cheshire gave her these decorations anyway. Now the maid thanks the mistress, and the main character says that, of course, she should take it, after which she asks how long the maid has been working there. The girl replies that it's 3 years, and the girl claims that then she probably knows the senior maid well, and she asks how long she has been there. The maid replies that this woman, that is, the senior servant, has been serving the heir and my lady there since early childhood, and she heard that she was Lady Alina's nanny. Rebecca realizes that it seems she also did not like the head maid, after which the young lady says that it is understood and thanks the girl, and also says that she can go. The maid bows and leaves, and the main character realizes that at first she simply considered the now servant to be a very devoted person, but since she was the nanny, her love for Alina and Iska is a little different. That's probably why the senior maid didn't like her even more, so if it was she who put out the sacred fires that night, it would be funny. The head maid from the original story didn't treat Rebecca like that, and maybe she's one of those who likes to mock simpletons. A little while later, the girl realizes that at this party the phrase horse riding is just an excuse, and in fact it is just an open-air party, where aristocrats gather to make acquaintances, gather information, and discuss love affairs. So the horses are just there for the background, and the get-together is a sort of social club. The girl realizes that she failed to make a good impression last time at the royal palace reception. Then we need to work on this here. At this point, Freya turns to the lady and says that thank God she's recovered. The girl says that the lady can't even imagine how worried she was when she learned about her illness. After which she says she wanted to visit her, but thought she might be uncomfortable, and changed her mind. The main character then asserts that she would never be uncomfortable, and thanks her for her concern. Freya at this time strokes the horse, and says that it is such a joy that the lady has recovered. The main character then thinks that she cannot believe that this horse can make such sparkling eyes, because obviously the whole point is that Freya is special, because she is the protagonist's childhood friend. And it's worth thinking about the fact that she stole Freya's place, after which the young lady clutches her dress. And Alina notices her anxiety and then asserts that all the horses there are well trained. Therefore, a girl can choose the one that suits her taste, excluding the ones that are in the paddock on the right. The main character then asks why they're not allowed, and the girl replies that only her brother rides them, and Rebecca says that's understandable. Freya, meanwhile, wonders if the other horses might be a bit rough on their mistress. After all, she'd only just recovered from her illness. Alina insists they won't be skating for long, so there's no need to worry. If the girl wishes, they can select the most obedient horse for her. After that, the girl turns to Cedric, and he obeys, and the main character, looking at all these horses, wonders if they are talking about the most obedient horse. If that's the case, then which one of them is obedient? Rebecca thinks it's amazing that these horses are discriminating against her, since she didn't even like them in the first place. Although the girl thinks she dislikes the entire stable as a whole, Freya waves to someone. It turns out it's Iz, and the girl wishes him good morning. Iske then remarks that she's been feeling especially cheerful at the crack of dawn. The man also asks what she is doing, and the girl replies that his beautiful wife was planning to have fun with them today, and if he is bored, he can join in. Iske then asks what they are talking about, after which he looks menacingly at the main character. The girl sees his gaze, but then, only with a smile on her face, says that her husband is still simply lovely today. The young lady also asks if he was heading somewhere, and the guy replies that he was not. And on the day of rest, he does nothing, after which the young lady wonders why he came there. After which she says that she was choosing a horse for a horse riding meeting, and asks if he wants to go with them. The guy replies that he is busy, and the young lady wonders if he really has 7 Fridays in a week, that he doesn't plan to do anything. After which she asks if she can choose any horse, and the man asks if she even understands them. The girl replies that she is not very good at choosing with her eyes and understands that this is precisely why she fell in love with him, or rather, pretended to. Elin and Isuke exchange glances. Then she turns to her brother, and she claims that Dr. Sergei said that was enough, after which she also turns to Isuka, and he asks why he doesn't then choose a horse for Ruby and give her a lift to the meeting place, and he and Freya will go first. Freya then wants to say something to Helen, but she only says that they have to go. The main character then thinks in shock. Is Helen really going to leave her like this? And how can she trust her to this monster with a clear conscience? After which the main character apologizes for causing him trouble and also states that it would be better for her to go home. But the man tells her to wait, after which he also turns to Cedric. The servant then asks what the master heir wants, and he only says that he should go out. The guy then asks what he's talking about, and Isuke tells him again to go out, to which he agrees and immediately runs out. The main character thinks, why throw him out? Because then they will remain there alone. The girl realizes that she hates the stables, and even more so being there with the ruthless creature. After all, it was like that in both her past life and this one. The young lady remembers how her brother, Cheshire, he asked her if she knew what she had done wrong, and the girl realized that both times she had experienced a similar event that made her hair stand on end. But then the young lady realizes that she needs to pull herself together because she can't ruin everything because of some stupid injury, and she needs to hold on. At this point, Isuke turns to the young lady and says she has a strange expression on her face. The girl recalls her brother claiming he thought he told her not to coddle her. Isuke then says that okay, they have passed by, so let the girl go there. But in the young lady's thoughts, only the voice of her brother is heard, who spoke, addressed her as a shameless girl, and told her to go there. At this time, Isuke asks if she will take it and points to something for the horse, but the girl goes in one direction and only remembers how her brother told her to quickly bring it. Meanwhile, Isuke insists that the horse is stupid, and that's the only way to treat it. The girl recalls her brother saying that for someone who knows neither mercy nor prudence, there's only one punishment. And now the main character understands that she is okay, and she agreed to it herself. And she can also hold out, because she has already been beaten more than once. Isuke claims that the horse appears to have a grumpy personality, but in reality even he is easy to handle. However, when he sees the young lady fall to the floor, he asks what is going on. At this time, the main character apologizes and claims that she committed a grave sin and it is all her fault. And she also doesn't know her place and she doesn't know mercy, so she's completely hopeless. At this time, the young lady sits frightened on the floor, placing a whip in front of her. Isuke then looks at her in bewilderment and then claims that it looks like it's in Romania. The horses eat whips as a snack. The main character then asks in horror what he's talking about, and the guy just lifts the whip. And he throws her away as far as possible and also asks why she brought the whip. The girl then, in horror, claims that there was only this, and if he tells where the other one is, she will bring it. However, the guy only furiously asks why he needs another and what she is going to do with her. The protagonist then apologizes, insisting she shouldn't have hesitated and that she made a mistake. Isuke asks her what she did wrong, and the girl replies that she was wrong in everything from the very beginning, but the man screams at her to stop. And also to stop talking, damn it. The young lady then gets very scared and wonders what will happen to her now. However, after this, the guy only lifts her from the ground and also asks if she is going to breathe. Rebecca replies that she just wanted to stop the hiccups and understands that they have passed. The girl also thinks, what is wrong with her? She has already gotten the hang of this guy, so why is she so scared? She understands that she needs to come to her senses and continue her acting, and the guy at this time asks what equestrian meeting she is going to in such a state. The girl replies that she just thought she could meet new people there, and Isuke asks what the point is in knowing the people here. After which he hands the young lady an apple, and she wonders why she wants it. The man claims that she wanted to choose a horse, and for them, apples are like a bribe. The main character then wonders if she really should have brought the apples, and she should have told him right away. The girl also realizes she's completely freaked out, like a fool, and then asks if she can take one of his horses. The man asks who said no, and asks the young lady if it's true. He also asks if they might feel uncomfortable. Iska tells the girl to give the boys some apples, and they won't even recognize their master. After which the young lady hands him an apple and claims that she brought it to him, and also asks if he will let her ride on it. At this time, Iskyu is watching the young lady and also claims that she seems to like him. The girl replies that yes, and he is such a cutie, and then the man says that they are going, after which they turn to Cedric. And he asks which horse the lady has chosen, but the man only asserts that she will go with him. Then the main character and Cedric are surprised. The girl asks if he really doesn't mind, and if he's serious about giving her a ride. And the guy replies that again, this is her truth, and also claims that on the day of rest he does nothing, so he doesn't care. Well, the main character says that he just recently said that he was busy, and the guy claims that he was psychologically busy. Rudbeckia then thinks, is he really a complete fool? Answer, how can one be psychologically busy? A little while later, the two of them are riding a horse together, and the girl realizes that she thinks this can be considered great progress. After all, it was unpleasant for him to even run into her. She needed to keep trying so that the guy didn't lose interest in her. However, when they ride up to the other guests at the equestrian party, you're shocked, and one of them asks what he's looking at. The blonde then asks if his colleague sees it too, and he says that maybe he's just hallucinating. The aristocrats are also shocked and wonder if this is really the same ascetic heir. And the main character at this time understands that, even without turning around, she feels a fierce energy from him, and moreover, everyone present considers what is happening to be abnormal. Afterwards, they drive up to the table where Iski's sister and Freya are sitting. Alina then asks what's wrong with him. However, the man wonders since when he should have to clean up the mess she made. The girl then suggests that he not shift the blame onto her, and the guy insists that he doesn't shift anything, after which Alina asks what he wants from her then. After all, he could have remained the same from the very beginning to the very end. Isk asks what she would do then, and the girl only speaks. So that he would stop making a circus? Because at least she is grateful, not just to her father. The guy then says that she is definitely the only one in their family who knows what conscience is. Rudbeckia is shocked, wondering why they're suddenly fighting out of nowhere, since she's starting to feel like the apple of discord. Elena then says, well, since he knows, that's all. Maybe he'll stop arguing already, but she's starting to lose her temper. Freya, watching all this, gets up from her seat, and he screams for the two to stop. The girl also asks why they're arguing over trivial things. He also turns to Isu and says that since he has come here, let him have fun with his wife. The main character at this time only apologizes and thinks whether it will be right if she intervenes. Isk then looks at her, after which she takes him by the hand and pulls him closer to her. The main character then asks him not to swear, and she herself thinks what happened to him. The young lady also asks Togo not to be angry because of her, and also not to spoil his beautiful face. Freya watches all this at this time, and Isuke says he's not angry. He sighs, then turns to his sister and asks if she's angry, to which she replies, no. Rudbeckia wonders what kind of huddled brother and sister are these. The young lady then apologizes and thanks him for the ride. Rudbeckia also asserts that she will never forget today, and he even wants to write about it in his diary, after which the girl asks if he minds. The guide tells her to do as she pleases, and the main character smiles, but thinks it's terribly hard for her to pretend to be an actress every time. A little while later, someone turns to the lady and says everyone was waiting for her. And the main character looks at the turtle that is on the mug and thinks why it is a turtle. The young lady also wants to touch it with trembling hands and thinks that she can and will succeed. At that time, Elena turns to her and claims that she is very embarrassed for what she had to see, since she and Iski usually don't argue like that. Freya asks if it's okay that they left him there alone, and Elena replies that he can figure it out himself. He's not a little kid. The main character then looks at him, but then someone turns to the lady and asks how she's feeling. Rudbeckia replies that she's fine. But one of the women then claims that she was so scared when she learned that she had become ill in the port of Elmos. And what's more, she heard that she even had red fluid coming out of her nose. Rebecca understands that this woman is a slut. He continues to try to disgrace her, after which the main character has a smile on her face. She replies yes, and thanks milady for her concern. Well, she only claims she's never seen the girl eat, and she asks if she watches her figure very much or if she didn't like their food. The young lady then thinks that they are only seeing each other for the second time, after which she claims that she simply doesn't eat much by nature. Her interlocutor then says that here it is, just like in the north, unlike in the south, you need to maintain good health so as not to cause problems. Rebecca then thanks her for her concern and also tells her lady that she thinks they're becoming even closer. So she asks if she can sometimes consult with him. The woman then looks away, and he says that it's good, and at this time Alina slips one of the desserts to Ruby, and she says the castella's very tasty, to which the main character thanks her, but thinks it seems Helen's mood has soured because of what happened. Freya then tells Helen to relax, because they have a good relationship, and why did she suddenly quarrel with her brother? But the girl replies that it's more likely that she has a good relationship with her brother, and Freya asks if they really have. And Lauren is cute, but he's still a rebel, so she would like her brother to be more reliable. She also claims to have heard that the lady has an excellent relationship with her brothers. Rebecca says that, between them, her relationship is normal, and her brothers simply accept her childishness. Freya then says she's jealous, and probably is. The girl misses them very much, and the main character wonders if she is trying to feel her out. After which she claims that it is so good there that she didn't even think about them, and then one of the women says, "By the way, Cardinal Valentino will be visiting Arundel this year." Rebecca replies that she doesn't know and hasn't heard about it. She also realizes that, come to think of it, she'd completely forgotten just how Cheshire is. He's popular with the opposite sex, and it really pisses her off. Since the competition doesn't open until late fall, the guy still has a few months to go before he arrives, and in his arrogance, he's with Iske, in first place. A little while later, they are already riding horses, and Freya tells the lady not to take Lady Consolation's words to heart. She also claims that this is just a whim, because at one time she followed is like a little tale, but if you get to know her better, then she is not such a bad person. The main character then says that she in no way considered her a bad person, and that her husband is so chic, so she assumed that he had a lot of fans. Freya also claims that the lady is very nice, and frankly, she thought she was quite a picky person. The protagonist then asks why. The girl replies that it's because she's the princess of Romagna. The protagonist then thinks that, if we're talking about the original Rebecca, that's true. But still, the reason why she was hooked on Rebecca from the original is that if she had a normal environment and situation around her, she would not have made such a stupid choice. The main character also asks if they can go further, and the girl replies that the main thing is not to want to go deeper, but otherwise it's not a big deal. And this is the safest place to meet outdoors, so they gather here every time. Rebecca says it's clear, and Freya claims that she thinks the girl really knows how to ride a horse, after which the main character says that she just thinks so because the horse is good. Freya insists she doesn't think so at all, and if the girl isn't opposed, she'd like to organize a race. The main character then asks if she's talking about a race, and the girl replies that yes, and if they ride further forward and then gallop along the right side of the path on the opposite side of the road they came on, there will be a foothold, and the winner will be the one who gets to that place first. Rebecca understands that this is a super opportunity to get closer to Freya, so she says she agrees. The girl claims that she knows the route a little better, so she will give her a head start and she can go first, to which the main character agrees and suggests meeting at the finish line. The main character then rides a horse and thinks how long it has been since she rode a horse with peace of mind and without anyone's eyes on her. But it's so fresh, and the main character understands that now she wants to show off her riding skills to the fullest. Then the main character also turns to Freya, but when she turns around, she sees that she is not there and wonders where the girl went. The young lady also thinks that she may be lost, but at that moment she is attacked by a dark force, and he grabs her leg, after which the girl tries to stay on the horse, but she just keeps riding, And the main character then screams out what the hell this is, but then the dark force only covers her mouth. A little while later, the girl comes to her senses and wonders where she is now. But when the young lady turns around and hears something in the bushes, she sees that it sounds like a raccoon. Or maybe a rabbit, but whatever the case, this colossus is too big. The animal opens its mouth, and the main character sees bones inside, after which he actually screams. The monster just starts squealing, and the main character screams at him to stay back, stop, and get away from her. However, this monster only lifts her up in his arms, and the girl wonders what this striped fat man is doing. She also screams for him to let her go and put her down. The girl realizes she's been trying with all her might not to fall into eternal sleep at her husband's hands, and eventually some fat monster will take her life. But right now, the little monster is just dragging her over the hill. The young lady then begins to hear some sounds and asks what it is. However, the little monster immediately presses her head down to hide. Rebecca wonders why she has this bad feeling right now, as if she instinctively should not let herself be discovered, but when the young lady sees the one heading down the road. Then he comes into shock because it is a headless knight, their girlfriend thinks. What kind of monster is this? After which she tries her best to remain silent, and the monster runs away. The protagonist wonders if he's gone yet, but then she also looks at the raccoon and thinks what it is, after which he only puts a leaf on her wound. The main character is a little surprised and says that it turns out he saved her. The raccoon then shakes his head, and the main character, in shock, asks if he really understands her words, to which he waves again. The girl asks if this means that he can understand human speech, but he only shakes his head in disagreement, and the girl understands that it seems that he only understands her speech. After which, she turns to the EOTIC and asks if he could help her again, because she needs to go back home, but she doesn't know how to get out of there. However, when the main character looks at the raccoon, she wonders if he has lost heart. After which, he just turns around and squeaks, and the main character wonders if he's telling her to climb on him. After which, the girl does so softly, and also you want to say something. But the raccoon jumps up at that very moment, startling the girl. Meanwhile, the knights are searching for their mistress, wondering where she is. Well, then one of them hears some strange sound, and when he turns around, he can't see anything. After which, he looks into the bushes and claims that it was as if something ran there. Well, when he opens the bushes, he only screams and asks if it's really the lady. The girl sits in the bushes and asks if it's really Sir Endymion. The guy then cries out that thank God the lady is safe, after which he claims that he has found the heir's wife. Then everyone else is a little surprised and asks if the lady is injured anywhere, and the girl understands that this is certainly better than being with the monster. At this time, the knight takes the leaf from the young lady's head, but when he looks at it, he cries out in shock that the lady has a red liquid. The blonde then tells Andy to move over, and for the mistress to follow. The girl understands that, whatever the case, she's back, so everything will be fine. Well then, Isuke turns to her and claims that it looks like his wife's hands are starting to itch. If she doesn't make a fuss for at least a day, the girl gets scared and even starts to feel ill. The knight asks if the lady is okay, and she thinks that this cannot continue because Isuke is plunging her into eternal sleep. At this time, the man only tells her to get up, and one of the knights wants to say something to the master, but only tells the guy to shut up, and she asks if he didn't say that trying to attract his attention in this way is useless. Rudbeckia apologizes for causing trouble, however, she had no other choice. Isuke is only furious after this and picks up his wife. He also insists that she needs to be cured first, and then they will talk, after which he tells everyone to come out of the forest. And the young lady rides off with him on horseback. The young lady wonders if he mentioned the treatment, and she doesn't know what he's thinking about. However, Rudbeckia doesn't understand why she's in his arms. So warm. A little while later, the girl opens her eyes and wonders when she fell asleep. Well, then he sees Isuke in front of him, and he claims that Her Highness has finally woken up. The girl apologizes and claims that she accidentally fell asleep under the road, and the guy then says that they passed by. After which he tells her to explain what happened, and the main character thinks, Why does he suddenly ask about her circumstances? After which the girl finally tells her what it is. Lady Freya offered to challenge her to a horse riding competition, and she rode along the road she indicated when suddenly something jumped out of the bushes and grabbed her by the ankle. The girl also claims that she tried to escape but ended up losing consciousness as a result of a blow to her head. Rudbeckia also considers whether she should tell Iske about the raccoon. Then she insists that it's just as Freya said. The girl herself rushed into the depths of the forest, although she tried to dissuade her, saying that it was dangerous there. Rudbeckia asks what he's talking about and in what sense. The man then asks if she means to say Freya lied, and the girl wonders what he's even talking about. And why did Freya lie? And was she afraid to take responsibility for what happened, or was she trying to put her into eternal sleep? The main character also wonders if there was a bad relationship between them, because why did she suddenly do this? But at this time the guy tells her to come back, and the girl is a little surprised and also asks what he is talking about. Iske tells her to go back to Romagna because he will send her back without any conditions. Rudbeckia wonders what else this means, because she assumed that someday they would have to part, but certainly not now. Even her arrogant family members cannot thoughtlessly ask for a divorce, and they are only waiting for the right opportunity, and besides, Britain also considers her a hostage that it is a pity to let go of. But despite all this, the young man says he will annul the marriage unconditionally, and to none other than the king's nephew himself. The girl also understands that if Rudbeckia returns to Romagna, Alina will have to marry Prince Dorius, but who will then prevent her from falling into a crippling sleep? The young lady is sure that her father's spies there will definitely put Alina into eternal sleep, and if this happens, then if she returns home without having done anything. At this time, the guy claims that they got married anyway, without having feelings for each other, and there is no point in her staying there, so let the girl just go home. The main character tries to object, but the guy only asserts that he thinks she herself realized that their land is not for her. However, after this, the girl only jumps out of bed and screams that she doesn't want to. After which she grabs the guy by the leg and he asks what she is doing, and the girl claims that she cannot return. She also says that she made a mistake and was at fault, but this will not happen again, so she begs for forgiveness. Meanwhile, the man recalls how she insisted in the stables that she would accept any punishment, and now the girl insists he can beat her as many times as she made mistakes. After this, Iske only clenches his teeth, grabs the girl by the shoulders, and lifts her up. And he claims that he hates her, and that she also irritates him, and that it would be better if she behaved arrogantly, just like her origin. But now he cries out why she continues to torment human feelings with her actions. Or why does he make noise until late at night, and who should he be absolutely indifferent to? But who is she that she can't get out of his head? And the man screams that he's going crazy because he doesn't understand anything. The main character then realizes that's what it is. And despite the testimony about his childhood friend Iska, he wavered at her words. The girl also understands that she doesn't care what fragments of feelings he has in his soul, and she only wants to have at least the slightest meaning for him. Beyond that, nothing is more important, so now the young lady claims she'll do anything. Iske only frowns after that, and the girl says that she will agree to everything he asks of her, just let him not leave her. Iske then turns around and leaves, and the main character realizes that Freya van Furien, she carries herself with confidence in everything she does, exudes nobility, and is loved by many. In other words, she is the ideal aristocrat. And since most of the novel was focused on the Borgia and Omerta families, there was little description of Freya. However, she was a character who responded wisely to all the conflicts Rudbeckia created, and was always responsible for reconciling them. Therefore, the girl thought that if she acted differently from the original, everything would be fine, but in reality, this was not the case. And Freya knew that it would be dangerous there, so the young lady wondered why she did it. And the girl hadn't shown any hostility toward her from the very beginning. But she still understood that someone who wasn't worthy of concern was gradually getting on her nerves. And the young lady now sighs, and also says how difficult it all is. The next morning, Freya comes to see the young lady. She asks her to forgive her and claims that she was the first to beg her to participate in the races, but was afraid of Issa's reaction. The girl also claims that she is very sorry, but the main character thinks that this is not true at all. After which she also understands that if the girl really felt sorry for her, she would have told everyone the truth, so now she thinks why she only speaks like this in front of her. Then the young lady takes the girl by the hand and insists that everything is fine, because she also didn't know that it would turn out like this. So she tells the girl not to worry so much. Freya then replies that she is the mistress. However, the main character interrupts her and claims that there really is nothing wrong with it. After all, she was glad to see the beautiful landscapes of Arendelle up close. Freya was silent for a while after that, but then he smiles and thanks my lady, and also states that if she needs anything, she should definitely contact her. After all, she would help her in any way she could. Rudbeckia understood that for Freya, she was someone she wasn't even worth competing with. Until recently, of course, she didn't know what exactly had enraged the girl. But no one would likely believe her words, because she can't even compare to Freya. Although the fact is that the only one who even pretended to listen to her was her husband, at whose hands she was destined to fall into a crippling sleep. And this can be considered a bit paradoxical, but the girl also wonders why, from that very day on, Isuke hasn't even shown her face. Moreover, her life has become a complete recluse. Meanwhile, Alina insists that a reception for her brother's birthday is coming soon. Rudbeckia then asks if she can help with anything, and Alina replies that there is no need to believe everything is progressing. The main character then thinks that, although it's understandable, she'll only earn herself more hostility in this situation. The girl also understands that she too will have to attend this reception. And Alina claims that, by the way, she will be busy until the day of the reception and ordered the maids to prepare everything for her so the girl should not worry. After which she claims that she will go from the young lady thinks about the maids and understands that until recently they at least pretended to look after her. However, after her seclusion began, they openly began to ignore her, and they are cunning foxes. Rudbeckia also understands that if she calls them when she needs something, then they come back 2 years later with indifferent faces and thank God that at least Lucille helps her, whom she slipped a bribe. And I received it in good faith, I will hammer her, she will not be able to just take and turn her back on her. The girl is also thinking about how to dispel her husband's displeasure and is now talking about his birthday. But then the young lady remembers something and reaches for the chest of drawers and takes something out from there. However, at that very moment, the maid approaches her and claims that she did not know that the lady was interested in embroidery. The main character looks at her and thinks, when did this woman end up there? But she didn't even call anyone. After which the girl claims that she is simply repeating the drawings, and the woman asks if she wants to give a gift to the heir. The young lady replies that yes, but she hasn't embroidered for a long time and doesn't know how it will turn out, and also asks what is worth embroidering. The woman then asks, what about the willow, because there is one willow on which the gentleman heir often played in his childhood, and he regrets that the tree is now withering. The main character then says, that's it, and thanks the woman for the tip, but when she leaves, the main character is just wondering what she's talking about. And she doesn't know the reason for the Duchess's tragic death in detail, but she remembers for sure that the Duke's wife fell into an eternal sleep hanging from the willow. And now this woman is asking her to embroider willow. So the girl wonders if she really meant to disguise the word immersion in the object of words. But she's 200% sure it was the senior servant who ate the sacred fire in her room. A little while later, the girl finishes and realizes that now it's time to write a letter. However, at that very moment, the girl's stomach starts to hurt, and she thinks, why the hell is this happening today? But because it was happening so unstably, she was barely able to hold on. And she can't believe that even nature is not on her side, but the girl still doesn't understand why everything is so serious this time. At this time, a maid comes into the room and asks what is bothering the mistress, and she wonders why the head maid is there and where is Lucille. After which, the main character wants to say something, but the woman claims that she seems to be unwell and she will bring a painkiller. and the heir also said that she should remain in the mansion today, and added that there was no need for her to attend the reception. The girl then asks what she is talking about, and the woman claims that she thinks it is even for the better she is not feeling well, and if suddenly she wants to tell him something, then let him do it through her. A little while later, someone tells the lady that they brought painkillers. It turns out to be Lucille, and the main character asks if she can call Helen. But the girl replies that my lady is not at your mansion now, and that she will also arrive at the beginning of the reception. The main character then says that it is clear and thanks her, after which the maid asks permission to take her leave, and the young lady is left alone. After which he wonders if the maid really told him to pass everything on through her, and also wonders if she's completely crazy. To convey this to her, no matter how angry Isk was utter nonsense. However, what if the senior maid was telling the truth? Then the girl thinks that maybe the guy really doesn't want to see her, because she would like to believe that this is not true, but if he does this for the sake of not having any feelings for her, then everything is clear. Then the main character has been lying in bed for several hours, but thinks that it's not fair because the reception will start soon. She is sure that the head maid told Alina that she will not be able to attend Isk's birthday party due to poor health, but, be that as it may, she really does not feel well. However, she is not going to sit idly by, and now the main character reaches for the bell. After which Lucille comes into the room and asks if the mistress called her. Rebecca wonders if the girl will help her, since there will be an appointment soon, and she really wants to go to it. However, the maid tells her mistress that's all she heard. However, the main character insists that she just needs help with her clothes. After which he puts a precious stone in the hands of the maid and states that she has been terribly depressed for several days now, lying in bed, and that she will just clear her head a little and return. The main character also asks her, after which the maid does not even know what to say, and dresses the young lady. The girl also turns to the lady and tells her not to stay long, agrees to something, and claims that she will return soon. Rebecca understands that the escape operation was successful, but when she is already making her way through the bushes, she understands that she will simply give the gift back to the Migas. Well, then suddenly lightning strikes the sky and it starts raining. The main character then wonders why. And why the hell did it rain now? The girl realizes that even the weather is against her, and her gift gets all wet. Then she sees the aristocrats, and one of them claims that even the heavens know whose birthday it is. One of the women asks if it's because he's the best knight in the north. But even the power of heaven is no joke. The main character then thinks about why they are so happy, and looking at her gift, she thinks that she tried so hard to make a gift for this idiot. But at this time, someone claims that it does not look like an effort, and when the main character turns around, he sees Freya there, as well as Ivan. Freya asks how one can be so disdainful of someone else's kindness, and Ivan at this time claims that he told my lady that no matter how well she treats him, there will be no benefit from it. The main character watches them at this time, and then thinks that she should go back, and she heads for the door. The girl also understands that she is an uninvited guest, and that appearing in such a place would only bring shame. But it turns out that she wasted her hands in vain, and the gift ended up ruined anyway. The girl also remembers what Freya gave him and now thinks how she can give him this unfortunate scarf. The young lady also sneezes, then looks up at the sky and realizes the rain has stopped. The protagonist wonders where she is now, but when she turns, she bumps shoulders with someone and thinks that she almost broke her shoulder. And whoever it is, let him go to hell. At this point, the guy turns to the lady. He asks her if she's feeling unwell. The protagonist then reflects on how infuriating this is and asserts that he can safely insult her. The young man then asks what she is talking about, and the girl claims that she knows perfectly well that everyone there hates her, and the guy may no longer sing the song like last time but simply gossip about her. The young man then asks in shock what she is talking about, and the girl clenches her fists and claims that she understands where her place is. And also she doesn't need anything, and she will behave quietly as a mouse, so let him not worry. Rebecca also turns around and realizes that she is about to burst into tears, but it is possible that this is because she likes it. But when the young lady turns around, she sees several more men and thinks in shock. What are they doing there? Isuke then looks at the young lady, who only becomes embarrassed and angry before turning away, and he thinks up to what point he heard, and also what if he gets angry because she left the room without permission. But, be that as it may, she does not want to be disgraced in front of Freya's younger brother. However, when the main character wants to leave, she suddenly trips over her dress and falls. The girl, lying on the floor, thinks how ashamed she is now, but then Isuke comes up to her, and he helps her up. The girl then holds back her tears and apologizes for leaving the house. After all, she was just going to give him a gift and then immediately go back and didn't want to be an eyesore to him. The guy then asks what she's talking about, and the young lady claims that she knows he said there's no need for her to attend the reception. Well, she really wanted to give him a gift for his birthday. The man wondered who told her that, and the main character is a little surprised after this and realizes that she knew all along that the senior maid had deceived her. After which she asks if this means that it is not true, that he did not want to see her, because then she can give him the gift. The girl also thinks that thank God not all is lost, but the guy then asks what she is. However, before he could finish, the blonde screamed out, "What a piece of crap Lorenzo is!" And was he really babbling all sorts of nonsense with his tongue again secretly from him? After this, the young man screams that no, and that it only happened once, but Ivan only pulls him harder by the ear and screams what he said would happen to him if he heard that song even once more. The main character then thinks that the guy, of course, did not intend to do this. But now she feels so good. Isuke asks what song it is, after which they all fall silent, and the main character realizes that not long ago one student told him something, and he claimed that the student sang an obscene song and was kicked out, which is why everyone became as mute as fish, because no one needs extra problems. The girl also understands that although she is eager to annoy Lorenzo, she does not want to listen to that disgusting song a second time. And what's more, she wouldn't want it to reach Isuke's ears, so now the main character just sneezes, and Isuke asks if she's okay. The girl then says how gentle he is, and she wonders if he is already very angry with her, and also if he hates her anymore. After this, the man only lifts her up in his arms and says that they are going, but the main character thinks that he should wait, and also, is he really telling her to go to the reception looking like this? A little while later, the girl is already looking at the delicious dishes, and someone turns to Ruby and tells her to try it too, because she probably hasn't eaten anything all day. The girl understands that Helen is constantly trying to feed her, but she is really fine. At this time, Freya also comes up to them and asks Helen what happened. After all, Is seems out of sorts. Elena replies that she doesn't know either and will go ask him if Ruby trusts her. The main character thinks she's too old to be babysat. Meanwhile, Freya turns to her mistress, and he asks how she feels because she heard that she didn't say hello. The main character replies that it's a little difficult to explain, but be that as it may, everything is already fine. Freya then says that it's a good thing she was so scared. After which the girl also asks if anything happened between her and Aides, and the main character replies that no. She also tells my lady that she is really okay, so she can go there, because she probably hasn't talked to many of the guests yet. The girl then states that if something bothers her, she should tell anyone present, and the main character thinks about who she can tell something to. But she also doesn't understand why Isuke brought her there, and does he really want to announce their separation in front of all of us on my birthday? However, the young lady thinks that she should not think negatively and slaps herself on the cheeks. But then someone turns to the lady and claims that she thought she wouldn't be here today. The girl then asks if this is Princess Arian. She then claims she's a little late due to some circumstances. She also asks Her Highness who she came to the reception with, to which the girl replies that she came with a nanny. After all, mother is not a frequent guest in such places, and brother and sister Omerta are the king's nephews. And unlike them, the queen has a slave background, so taking part in such events is somewhat problematic for her. At this time, someone else turns to the lady and says that her husband is, after all, a paladin. It turns out it's another girl, and she claims her older brother is also a paladin. The main character then wishes me good evening, and asks if she happens to know her older brother. The girl replies that Maybe he is quite a popular person and has a good presence, but his character is just a nightmare, and the main character now realizes that she seems to know who the little girl is talking about. At this time, the girl claims that there was even a time when the young lady's husband rode him on his shoulders. The main character then wonders if this is really true, and the little girl replies that her brother really did force his way in. And the girl thinks that for some reason she was intrigued by Iska's expression at that moment. At this point, the little girl turns to the lady and claims that Her Highness said they could touch her hair and asks if it was true. The girl replies that it is, but not right now. The blonde then asks why her friend claims that people are watching, but Leah claims that she wants to touch them now, and the main character replies that it's okay and that they can also touch. After all, what difference does it make who is looking? And the little girl answers that this is right, after which he touches her hair. After which, the little girl also begins braiding her hair and asks if it's beautiful, since it's one of her talents. The main character replies that they both have excellent skills, but then Iske approaches the young lady and asks what she's doing. Two girls stand near the main character. They immediately flinch, and Rudbeckia asks if he's gone anywhere. The man replies no, and that he's the host of this reception. And the main character wonders if he is really now boasting that he is the main star of the event. At this time, the blonde man also approaches them and claims that he knew that they were playing together with the lady. He then turns to his sister and asks if she introduced herself correctly. The girl replies that she scolded him a little, but Rudbeckia insists that the princess and milady were playing with her. Then someone extends his hand to the girl, and the young lady wonders if he is being lenient because it is his birthday. Or maybe it's just a simple change of mood, after which Iska picks her up. The main character asks if he could do it again, after which he remains silent, but the girl apologizes and insists she won't bother him. The young lady also wonders why he is staring at her like that again, and maybe it is because of this. That's why now the main character says that it's definitely time to give her the gift. The girl then takes it out, and when the man looks at what is there, the young lady thinks that this is the matter and this is what the petty fox wanted. After which she hands him a handkerchief and a piece of paper. The girl also claims that she felt a little unwell because she was caught in the rain, but she worked very hard on embroidering all night and hopes he will like her gift. The main character also congratulates him on his birthday with a smile on her face and affirms her happiness in the states that he was born. The main character then thinks, why is he standing there, and looks at her because her arm is about to fall off. And after this, the man takes it and asks, what about the sheet? And the girl claims that she wrote this letter, that is, repentance, from the bottom of her heart. The girl understands that she thinks that if she says that it's just a letter, he will throw it away. After which he simply says what a silly girl she is, and the young men realize he has the same expression on his face as I did recently. So what does this mean? So she asks if he liked the gift. The man replies that she liked it, and the girl asks if it's true, to which he replies that it is. A little while later, the girl is already sitting on the sofa and thinking, this is such northern weather, but it will be difficult to see sunlight until summer. And besides, the personality she'd completely forgotten about has returned. The man asserts at this point that he regretted being so late in introducing them. It was the Duke of Omerta and the girl speaking now. That there was no need to worry, because she wanted to meet him when it was convenient for him. Rudbeckia also thinks that, apart from the color of their eyes, they are not a bit alike, and it seems that Iska and Helen got their stunning appearance from their sweaty mother. The man at this time claims that his son is such a fool that he was worried whether he would be able to greet her properly. The girl then claims that Sir Isk is very affectionate, and the man is a little surprised. His daughter claims he missed his brother's birthday, but the man insists he'd be happy if he wasn't there, and the girl claims he also didn't attend the wedding ceremony, and His Majesty expressed his regret. The Duke claims that this is not the first time he has been absent like this, after which he turns to the lady and asks if she has already visited the temple. The girl understands that visiting the temple is not a question of whether she took a political step there on behalf of the Pope's daughter. And northern aristocrats who have spent their wedding night after the wedding ceremony visit the temple together as a true married couple and exchange vows. In other words, the Duke asked if she and Isuke had had a wedding night. The girl understands that this is a rather unexpected question, but it is obvious that before Rebecca from the original broke up with Isuke, she did not spend a single day with him, and, moreover, no one forced them both to this duty. At this time, the man turns to the lady and then claims that it cannot be, and Alina claims that her brother didn't even show up that day. After which, the man clenches his fists, and he also cries out that so much time has already passed since the wedding ceremony, and do they really want to say that they still have not fulfilled their duty? And now he doesn't even know how to perceive this whole situation. The main character then wonders why he's attacking her. The man replies that he was calm because His Holiness the Pope said he would never insult the North. But how is this to be understood? The young lady realizes she remembers the Duke's reaction, and despite her exquisite past, it would be difficult to call her and Isuke true spouses if they hadn't spent their wedding night together, and the proud Omerta family wouldn't have allowed them to be subjected to a unilateral divorce, as it happened to her previous suitors. The Duke also fervently supported this marriage to correct his son's ascetic nature. He thought that after a worse marriage with her, the boy would find it easier to marry a girl from a better family. And surely even the Duke himself assumed that this marriage would not last long, judging by his reaction. The girl now claims that they simply postponed it because she was unwell. However, she is already much better, so they will soon visit the temple. The man then sits back and sighs heavily, and also claims that if that was the reason, then he felt a little calmer, because it would also be more convenient for them to confirm this marriage as soon as possible. Rebecca thanks him for his concern and claims that it seems that Sir Isuke is so affectionate because he takes after him, and the man claims that he is glad that they understand each other. The young lady understands that after spending the first wedding night and becoming a real married couple, annulling the marriage is already complicated, and since in all her previous marriages she did not have a first wedding night, it was possible to annul the marriage, but divorce is a special problem. After all, in Romania, regardless of your status, divorce is prohibited, and the same is true in countries that adhere to the same religion. That's why, after your wedding night, Romania will have to make a lot of sacrifices to win her back. Obviously, this is precisely what the Duke is aiming for, since in the original, after the marriage is declared invalid, she sends Alina away and returns to Romania. Therefore, if the separation process becomes more complicated, then the secret conspiracy to arm Alina in her crippled sleep will be postponed until a later time. Isuke will also get tired of it, and he will leave her in this place, and in that case, she will not return to that terrible place. The girl now understands that this is simply perfect, and what's more, the Duke himself is rushing them. But there's only one problem, and that's how to spend their wedding night with this insensitive blockhead named Isuke. A little while later, the girl thinks about it, but then someone turns to her. And when the young lady turns around, she sees that it is one of the knights. He says that it is very good that the lady has come. The young lady then asks if something is wrong, but the man replies that no, he's just glad to see her. The girl realizes he must have been bored, and the man asks if she's come to see Sir Isuke. To which the young lady replies, yes, and I'm wondering if he wants to try some fruit. The guy then thanks her and claims that he was going crazy from hunger. But then someone comes up behind him and asks if it's fruit. This frightens the young lady, and also asks if he wants one too, after which the man takes the apple and leaves. Andy Maiman claims that this is his older brother, and the main character says what a respectable brother he has. After which the young man replies that this is not true at all. He also turns to the lady and tells her to look there because Sir Isuke is currently having a duel. The main character then looks at how the guy throws all the warriors aside and says that he is simply amazing. The man, hearing this, freezes in place, and when he turns around, he sees that his wife and one of the knights are there. The girl shakes that he is the best, and the knight claims that this is what was expected from their boss. However, before he can finish the sentence, he sees the gentleman's irritated look on him. The main character also notices this and says that, no matter how you look at it, the best knight of the server is still different from the rest. To which the guy replies that she is right and he always felt it, but Sir Isuke really is a real demon. Then a blonde guy also comes up to them and screams that they are spilling something hard there, and he is playing around there. He also says, well, what a bunch of young people have come here? He also sees the young lady and, with a smile on his face, says that the lady is a bit early today. The young lady replies, yes, and Sir Endymion was her interlocutor. Ivan then tells the lady that this idiot isn't a sir at all, as he's just a student. The young man replies that everything is correct, and she can just call him Andy. However, the blonde then exclaims, wondering if he's really flirting with the lady right now. The young man then replies that no, and he doesn't dare, and the main character notices someone approaching. It turns out to be Isuke, and he says they're making a lot of noise. The main character then says he was simply magnificent, and she thinks she's fallen in love with him all over again. Meanwhile, the blonde drags away one of the knights, who only gets upset and asks why he always gets it. The main character then turns to her husband and asks if she accidentally interrupted his training, to which he replies that it seems she understood. After which he takes one of the apples and begins to eat it, and the main character thinks. What he said last time was that he didn't need her food, so what's happening to him all of a sudden? The girl also sees sweat running down his neck, after which she extends her hand. But the man just turns around and asks what she is doing, to which the young lady smiles and claims that she just wanted to wipe away the sweat. Isuke looks at her, a little displeased ly, and then says that it's dirty. The girl then claims that she washed her hands thoroughly before coming there, and Isuke replies that he is not talking about her hands. After which everyone scolds him, and the young lady thinks why he is angry again. And it's so difficult with him. After the birthday party for Isuke, the atmosphere calmed down a bit, but getting close to him is still difficult, although if you think about it, there is progress. Now the girl turns to the guy and tells him that his father has returned. The guy asks if she is talking about his father, and the young lady wonders what kind of reaction this is. After which he claims that he was a little angry, the guy replies that this is in his repertoire, after which he throws away the apple core. The young lady looks at this apple core and thinks that she is a little scared. But if she makes a mistake, she will fly away just like that poor apple. And the girl is wondering how to start this conversation. Meanwhile, the guy claims she has a strange expression on her face and asks the young lady if she's really there, and the man asks if there's anyone else there. After which the main character smiles and asks how about an angel of love. Well, after this, the guy looks at her with disgust and turns around, and also claims that he wants to cut his head off. He also takes another apple, and the girl thinks that maybe she went a little overboard, and also claims that, whatever the case, her father is very angry and she doesn't even know what to do. The guy then asks what the old man said, and the main character thinks about how best to say it. After which she claims he said they haven't yet fulfilled their duty to become true spouses. Isuke asks what other duty, and the young lady replies that this is what needs to be done to become a real husband and wife. However, the guy still looks at her in bewilderment, and the main character wonders what is wrong with him, and whether their Isuke was really an innocent ascetic. After which the young lady says, a little embarrassed, that his father was talking about the wedding night. The guy then asks again what she's talking about, but when he comes to the realization, he falls silent. And he also turns around in confusion, and the young lady wonders if he really doesn't understand hints at all. The guy at this point claims that there is no need to worry about it, and the young lady asks what he is talking about. And Isuke tells her not to worry, because it doesn't matter what her father says. The girl understands that he is his father, so he can talk to them like that. And she's standing on the edge of her life. The guy, meanwhile, insists he doesn't know why this bothers him so much. And he didn't think she wanted that. Rebecca claims she simply thought so, since she became his wife. Then they must fulfill their marital obligations and, in addition, her words that she does not want to return home. They are the purest truth, because she likes him, so for her it is enough just to be near him. However, if he wants to marry a more worthy girl, then nothing can be done. And she'd like it to be his will, not someone else's. The guy remains silent for a while, then claims that it seems she really doesn't want to go home. The girl replies that it's understandable since he's there, and the young man asks if that's really the whole reason. The main character doesn't even know what to say after this, and realizes that she's been trying her best to pretend to be his fan all this time. And now he dares to doubt her fanatical devotion. The young man, meanwhile, says she's right, and once they fulfill this very duty, no one will be able to interfere in their marriage. And if she thinks that her feelings can change, then let her say so now. The main character then smiles and claims that this will never happen. After which the young man turns around and says that it's good because then they will see each other at night. Rebecca asks if this is true and if it's really tonight. The young lady also apologizes and claims she's just so happy. He also asks whether she should come to the bedroom or wait for him, although the first option is probably better. At this time, the guy just shuts her up and tells her not to plan anything and to go and get some sleep. The young lady then says that she understands and says goodbye to him, and also understands that she has succeeded. Rebecca understands that Cheshire was sure that Iski would never touch her, and she thinks that this was the most compelling reason why they decided to marry Iski. After the first wedding night, there is nothing to return, and if you think about the betrayed and shocked Cheshire, then even more so. Now the main character is sitting on the bed and wondering if she is really going to do this. The girl also thinks that if Isk doesn't come, and if he suddenly changes his mind. And, by the way, the moon is so bright today, and she immediately remembers that night, and also wonders if the raccoon is doing well. After all, she'd like to meet him again. The girl is also wondering if her husband really won't come. After which she begins to ask God to make sure that this night goes well, and that her heartless husband will be a little less heartless today. The girl also claims that be it pity, interest, or something else, but she asks that it make his feeling as strong as her faith in. However, then the guy turns to her and asks if she really made such a fuss and ended up hiding it. The main character looks at him in shock, then becomes completely embarrassed. Iske insists that he, of course, feels the same. She is not a professional in this matter, but her expression does not look like a wife who is waiting for her husband. Rebecca then claims that for a second she simply could not believe her eyes, because he really did come, and she seemed to be in a dream. At this time, the guy claims that he will ask the last question, and after that there will be no turning back. After which he asks her if she really doesn't care. She understands that if he's the main character in this world, he can do whatever he wants. Then she is a supporting character who can do anything for the sake of that in order to survive. And the girl insists that if she's with him, she likes everything. The man is silent for a moment after this, and then begins to untie the pasok from his robe, after which he falls to the ground, and the main character is very embarrassed because now she can see her husband half naked. At this point, Iski approaches her and the main character. She looks at him all red, and the guy asks if she really got scared when she put it on. The girl replies that this is not so, and the young man claims that she is shaking as if he is about to eat her. The young lady replies that she is just nervous, and the guy picks her up and places her on his lap. And he also tells the girl to relax, because he didn't know how to do this either. The guy begins to untie the belt on the girl's robe, and when the young lady looks away and bites her lip, then Iske tells her not to bite her lips, because he's the one who should be doing it. This makes the main character even more embarrassed and wonders if he's really an ascetic. The young man then takes off her robe, but then, in shock, notices something and feels something strange on her body. He asks if it's really a scar. The main character thought he wouldn't see it, but now he insists it is. That she simply got hurt while playing as a child. Iske asks what she was playing with to get such a scar. And the girl replies that when she was little, they played circus with her cousins who came to visit, and as luck would have it, their commander turned out to be quite the bully, and when he swung a whip, it slightly offended her. The guy then pulls his robe back on, and the main character asks what is going on. However, Iske only ties the bow and then remains silent, and the girl thinks that maybe he didn't want to see the scar, but she thought that if they started, it wouldn't bother him anymore. And also, if she misses such a rare chance now, then later she will probably no longer be able to do it. That's why now the main character approaches him and puts her hands on his shoulders. The young man asks what she is doing, and the girl replies that she wants to put him on the bed, after which the guy remains silent. And the young lady asks if she made a mistake again, or maybe ruined his mood, to which the guy replies that she didn't. He asks if there are any other wounds on her body. The young lady is a little surprised and realizes she knew it was because of the scar. And of course she has a few more on the back of her thigh, but what will happen now? If this is the case, then maybe it's just worth telling the whole truth. But the young lady thinks that if Isaac gets angry because Togo, she'll know she just lied to him. The guy then pushes her away a little and tells her to forget it, because it doesn't matter. After which he gets out of bed and where he is heading, and the main character wonders if he will really leave. Isk then lies down on the other side of the bed, and the young lady realizes that he has not left after all. However, she thinks that he is not in a good mood because he revealed her lie, so he needs to ask for forgiveness. And now the main character apologizes and also claims that she did not intend to deliberately hide it. The guy asks what she's talking about, and the young lady, almost in tears, claims that she's just ashamed of it, that she was such a rowdy person and therefore, without knowing it, she hid it, and now she claims that she will no longer lie to him and will be honest from now on. But the young man just stops her and tells her to stop talking. After all, he said that this is not the issue, after which the guy sighs and pulls her towards him. He also lies down on the bed. The main character looks at him with a little surprise, and when the young man looks back at her, the girl actually shudders. Isk asks why she stops breathing every time, and the young lady replies that she simply thinks he thinks she's a liar. Iski claims that if she were a liar, she wouldn't be lying there now, and the main character wants to tell him something. However, the guy insists not because of her, and thinks it would be better to do it another day. Rebecca then wonders why he believed her words this time too, after which the girl asks if this means that he hates her, and the guy is interested. Does this really bother her so much? The main character wonders what this answer could be. And she also asks, should she leave if he sleeps there? But the guy hugs her with his arm and says no. The main character is then a little surprised and then asks if she can sleep with him, and the guy says that she can do as she wants. But now the girl thinks that she asked in vain, because she won't be able to sleep peacefully today. However, when the young lady looks at her husband's face, she sees that he has already fallen asleep. Rebecca understands that Iske is handsome even at normal times, but when he sleeps, he is even more handsome. After which the girl gets out of his hand and realizes that she is freezing from it. The young lady also looks at how big this hand is and then takes the blanket out from under the guy. She also says that he is a fool and thinks that if he wants, he can do anything. However, she does not understand why he constantly doubts. It would have been better if he had been like Cheshire and her family. That is, someone of the same class as those she had encountered. After all, if his demands were as obvious as theirs, then she would not have received these strange ones. And unfamiliar feelings would have been much simpler anyway. Now the girl wishes the young man peaceful dreams, but then the main character has a dream. In it, she looks out at her estate burning from her balcony, and when Iske approaches her, the guy looks at her sullenly and asks what the reason is. The young lady wonders if he doesn't understand it himself. Iske tells her to stop making up lame excuses because she could have made a different choice. The girl replies that he's right, and she could have told him the truth. Before she plunged into eternal sleep, however, her choice was different, and she became a true expert in machinations. It was her older brother, after all, who, simply because of some rumors about the wedding, plunged the heiress of Omerta into eternal sleep. And really, isn't it strange for you? After all, her brother only ordered her to do so in a way that would make the wedding process more difficult. But she didn't do that, and the young lady asks if he understands what she's getting at. After which the young lady claims that she was the one who put his sister into a normal sleep. The man asks why the hell she did that. The girl simply turns around and says that, really, why not just say that she hates her outright? The guy is simply wondering if she stole the grail. And the girl, with a smile on her face, replies that she was exposed, although who else could take it and hand it over to him? As for that document about the dissolution of the engagement, she didn't sign it. So they are still husband and wife. The girl also touches the boy's sword and declares that even though it's too late, he should allow her to depart to the afterlife as his wife as a wedding gift. The guy asks if she's talking about her husband and wife. He cries out how such things come out of her mouth after she robbed him and plunged his entire family into eternal sleep. However, the young lady says what a fool he is, and this is proof that they are real spouses, because let him look at this magnificent quarrel between husband and wife. She dreamed day and night only about when this damn place would turn into this, and the guy fulfilled her wish. The young man then, with tears in his eyes, asserts that he could do anything for her. And the young lady then apologizes and claims that perhaps she has been planning to test his feelings all her life, and until she falls into a normal sleep, she is convinced that he is on her side. The girl also claims that this is the last wish of a fallen man, so let him have no doubt that she loves him. Now the main character opens her eyes in shock and realizes that she seems to have had some very confusing dream. At this time, Iske turns to her and asks if she had a nightmare. The girl then wonders why he's still around and says he woke up early. The young man replies that someone was keeping him from getting a good night's sleep, and since she's awake, the guy suggests they have breakfast together. Rebecca is a little surprised and thinks it's not enough that he slept in the same bed with her. So now he offers to have breakfast together, so the girl agrees, and the young man says that from now on she will also have lunch with him. And if she has no business today, then let her come to the temple. The girl is a little surprised after this, and the young man claims that he is free at that very time. Rebecca was surprised that Iske was the first to suggest eating together, however, due to the variety of fatty foods. And in the fierce atmosphere, all the food she had eaten came out, and the girl thought, really? Iske suggested going to the temple together to protect her, who had fallen into a difficult situation after missing her wedding night. However, this would not bring any benefits for the boys. And what's more, among the many priests of Arendelle, there are definitely Borja's spies hiding, and then is he really going to give these spies a warning? The fact that the Princess of Romania is in his hands, so let them not even think about betraying Arendelle. The young lady also wonders what is on his mind, but at this time, someone addresses Ruby and the main character realizes that it is Ellen. Iske's sister claims that she heard that they were going to the temple with her brother, and the main game does not answer that this is so. After which, Alina is silent for a while, but then apologizes for disturbing her, but she needs to tell her something. The main character asks, "What is there?" And the girl replies that this letter came from Romney, and she thought that it would be better to give it to her personally, since the letter was sent by Cardinal Valentino, Rudbeckia. Then he looks desperately at this letter, and Alina asks if the girl is unwell. The young lady replies that no, everything is fine, and thanks, Ellen. A short time later, she finds herself in the garden, and she picks flowers, and Alina at this time claims that it seemed to her that now the girl meets with Princess Ariane quite often. So she asks how about a visit to the royal palace soon, as she's sure the queen would be delighted. The protagonist asks if that's possible, and Alina replies that of course she's free to decide for herself, and there's no need to ask her permission. After all, if Ruby wants, she can handle her. The main character then asks if this is true, and the girl replies that yes, if she is not comfortable. Rudbeckia understands that she will only be glad if Alina goes with her, but she is afraid that the queen will be uncomfortable, and the girl understands that first she needs to focus on visiting the temple. And although she is not going there for the ceremony and verbal vows, she is still tense about the embarrassment that happened yesterday. So next time she must make progress. The priests of Arendelle, unlike those of Romania, are more trustworthy. However, they instill a sense of belonging to the heretic inquisitors rather than a feeling of love and forgiveness, and the same applies to the consecrated knights, which includes Iske. After all, although they take on the role of guardians of the temple, they are also called a special detachment that carries out the secret orders of the king. Therefore, if the royal family and the temple stand against each other, then whose side will the detachment of holy knights take? At this time, someone else addresses the lady, and the main character realizes that it is Freya. She claims that although she heard that the girl was visiting the temple today, she was incredibly happy to meet her like this. Rebecca wondered if she had heard, and if Iske had managed to tell her, and now the young lady replied that she had too, and also asked what business she was there on. Freya replies that their uncle is the archbishop of this temple, and she decided to look there for the first time in a long time to see her uncle together with Lorenzo. However, when the main character looks at these people, she sees that they treat her with hostility. At this time, Freya turns to Lorenzo and asks why he doesn't greet the lady, since it seems everyone has lost their minds from her beauty. But at this point, the knights are a little frightened, seeing how he's approaching. The main character wonders what's wrong with them. But then Isuke approaches her and says she's late. The young lady asks how long he's been waiting. Isuke replies that no, and that he just arrived, after which the young lady wonders if he is really telling her that she is late. At this time, the guy asks what she has in her hands, and the young lady answers that this flower crown, and she made it for him with all her heart and soul. Rebecca also asks if he likes it, since she made Ellen's too. But the guy replies that only children wear things like that. And he also takes her hand in his and claims that she has ruined all her hands. The young lady replies that she was so absorbed in his gift that she didn't even notice, and Freya watches all this with displeasure. After which, he turns to Isuke and smiles, and then asks why he is acting like a stone, even with such a sweet wife. The guy just asks what she's doing there, and the girl replies that she's visiting her uncle. And he'll take Lauren with him, so let Isuke not scold him, after which she also affirms. Lauren has something she wants to tell the lady. Isuke asks what it is, and the girl tells the lady that she heard it, that her little brother was very rude to her a few days ago, and that since they were all there, the guy wanted to apologize. The main character then considers whether she has any reason to accept insincere apologies right now. Therefore, she is only interested in what rudeness means and claims that she does not understand what they are talking about. The girl and her brother are a little surprised, but Freya then remarks, "What a magnanimous lady! But be that as it may, you shouldn't hide your feelings of resentment, because she can't even imagine it. How unpleasant it was for her, and even for her who simply heard about it, it was very annoying." However, the main character claims that she was not offended, after which Freya smiles and tells the lady that no. After this, Lorenzo comes forward and addresses the lady, and also states that he behaved like this a few days ago. However, then Isuke approaches Lorenzo, and the guy stops because of this, and also gets scared. After which he hides behind your sister, and the main character says that in general. She's fine, so there's no need to worry. Isuke then leans over and asks if she's okay. The girl replies that, of course, she's fine. The guy then puts his hand to her forehead and says, "It's weird. There's no fever, so why is she sweating?" Freya claims that perhaps the lady has been out in the cold wind for too long when she was in the garden. But she thinks that she really does look weak. Isuke then extends his hand to his wife and states that he cannot understand whether he has married or taken the child on an errand. After which he raises the main character, ignoring Freya's words. The girl is then a little surprised and turns to Issa. Well, he just says that they should come next time and apologize in person, after which the girl remains silent. And when they leave, he just starts biting his nails and saying how annoying it is. Her brother turns to her a little worriedly, but the girl only asks who this nasty thing is. Since everyone is covering for her, the main character says she's heavy and asks to be let go. The guy asks her if she wants to make her nose bleed again and faint. The girl then becomes embarrassed and wonders why he's bringing up such a shameful moment. She also realizes that she is a little uncomfortable, after which she puts her arms around his neck. And she also thinks why she is so surprised now, since she has already seen him naked. Well, maybe if that's the case, then we can speed up the pace of their relationship, after which the young lady asserts that when he hugs her like that, her heart flutters and she thinks he's really into her, but the guy then only claims it's about Lorenzo's tactlessness towards her. The young lady wonders why he's changing the subject like that, insisting she can't remember anymore. Stalin then claims that, as far as he heard, he sang a song mocking curly hair, and he asks if it's true, and the young lady thinks, wow, these are the fairy tales they told him. Although she would like the guy to know about that unpleasant song, she does not want to look like a bone of contention. So she looks away and insists it's true and seems to be true. However, the guy insists that for someone who doesn't remember, she seems to be responding too quickly, and the girl realizes she needs to change the subject quickly. The young lady then says that it is true, and he did say that this morning, that from now on she will have lunch with him, and her Naledi asks if it is true, and the guy replies that yes, and she doesn't want to know if she wants to. The girl understands that she doesn't want to, because this is a new form of torture. But she's still so nervous that all the food keeps coming back up. Well, then the young lady thinks that, unfortunately, she can't, so to speak, and decides to go to the bank, after which she kisses the young man on the cheek. And he claims that, of course he does. Well, then someone approaches the sir, and the main character leads this person. She is very embarrassed, and also understands that she is, after all, the daughter of the Pope. At this time, the priests look at her with a little surprise, and the girl thinks how she could show herself in such a form in front of so many people, and especially in the temple, where one must be modest. So the girl wonders why Isuke came there. Meanwhile, the priests bow and greet Lady Rebecca. They also claim they were waiting for her arrival there. The girl then rises to her feet, and one of the saints claims to be Cardinal Valentino. He gave them a message telling them to help his little sister. The main character smiles in response, and the priest asserts that this temple has long received recognition of its holiness from the Pope, and let the young lady take this place as her native land and drop by at any time, to which the young lady agrees and thanks him. And the priest claims that, to tell the truth, they were a little worried because the girl had not yet come to take the vows, but it seems their worries were in vain. Is claims that, as they themselves know, he is not one of those people who adheres to old-fashioned traditions. And the priest claims that he inspires even greater peace of mind, they say so, but wouldn't it be more correct to follow them, even if his wife, being the daughter of His Holiness, annoys him, at least for the sake of preventing other misunderstandings? However, the guy then insists it's a joke. He then also places his hand on his wife's shoulder, and he claims that his wife simply refrained from leaving the house due to poor health, and they will visit them again soon on this issue. The priest remains silent after this. The main character wonders what's going on and why the situation is like this. Meanwhile, the other clergy look on with displeasure, and the main character realizes that it seems like no one there is happy about Isuke. After all, one of the two is considered the guardian of the temple, but the guy is still the king's nephew, and apparently this is because for Isuke, the kingdom of Britain comes first. But, by the way, the young lady thinks that the archbishop appeared briefly in the novel. At this time, the priest addresses Lady Rebecca, and the girl asks what is the matter, and the priest states that they believe that no interference in religious activities will arise during their stay there. And besides, since the feast of St. Agnes is approaching, the church will be holding a charity event in its honor, and he asks if the girl will attend. The main character then wants to say something, but Isuke asks if she can come there accompanied by her husband. The priest replies that, of course, she should believe. Arriving together will bring them even greater joy, and they truly are true newlyweds, not wanting to be apart for a second. The main character then wonders if she's imagining things or if he's just constantly teasing them. Meanwhile, the priest asserts that he thinks the scale of the upcoming event will be larger than expected. A little while later, this holiday has already arrived, and one of the knights turns to the lady. The girl then says she's glad to see Sir Ivan. The boy insists it would have been much better. When she arrives alone, he asks why she brought that idiot along. Is claims he can hear everything and then approaches them, and the main character understands that so many people are gathering around Isuke, and in her case, her plan failed from the very beginning, and she wanted to come there quietly together and also show that she had nothing to do with the temple. At this point, Isuke asks what is going on, and the young lady claims that she thought it was a busy place. And so many people have come to today's celebration, so she thinks they're all very religious. The guy replies that everyone came there simply to see if they could snatch something from the temple. But one of the knights then claims that he is not like that. And doesn't Sir Isuke know how religious a man he is? The boy then turns to Endymion, and the young man asks what's wrong. But the man only looks at him coldly, and he claims that he doesn't remember giving him a vacation. After which, the young man gets a little scared, and the main character thinks that they were unlucky enough to get such a boss. The knight also turns to Sir Isuke, and asks if he would like to sing by any chance, since he will bring him a drink. But the guys answer that it is not necessary. And the main character claims that she also has a dry throat, so she goes with him for drinks, but the guy says that she is not his subordinate, so why should she go? However, the girl claims that the statue is so unusual and she wants to take a closer look at it, so she will return soon. Isk then thinks that everything is unusual with her, but then notices something and tells the young lady to wait, after which he leans towards her shoes and says, "What a sloppy girl." And it also shows what she had on her shoe, and the young lady wonders what it is. She can't believe she walked around with that thing on her shoe all the time, and she even feels a little embarrassed. The girl now smiles and says that she is a little careless, and the guy replies that if she understands, then fine. And the main character says that then she will go. However, Iske tells her not to run, otherwise she will fall. After which the girl with a smile on her face replies that it's fine, and she will enter as light as a feather. Then the young lady notices that Iske is silent and asks if something is wrong, and the guy replies that nothing is wrong. The girl understands that he bent down and removed what was stuck to her shoe himself, so she doesn't understand what the catch is. The knight at this time claims that it looks like pomegranate juice, and the young lady claims that it looks like the statue has red liquid flowing from its nose. And that's just like her. The knight only reacts with surprise, and the girl insists that he can just laugh, because it was a joke. Endymion then smiles and claims that, in truth, he too sometimes feels similar to this statue, since every apprentice paladin of Arendelle copes with repairs and hazing at least once. And then, standing still, a red liquid starts coming out of your nose. The main character wonders if this really happens while standing still. The young man insists that it happens when a student overexerts their body until they reach a certain level. However, since this is a kind of proof that you are becoming stronger, there are also those who, proudly, get hot and get hit in the face, which causes the red liquid to start flowing from their nose again. The guy claims that it's all because a true paladin shouldn't be arrogant, but the young lady understands that it seems to her that they are all arrogance, starting with Iske. The girl also asks if he means the training process, and the guy replies that, yes, both the optimal merger and the swordsmanship in the process are combined with holiness. At this time, someone addresses Lady Redbeckia, and the guy realizes that it is the Archbishop. At this time, the priest thanks the girl for her presence at the charity event and asks if she would like to take a short walk with him. But when the main character looks in the direction where Iske should be standing, she realizes that it looks like he has also gone somewhere, after which the girl turns to the knight and tells him to go on without her. The guy stands there with 3 glasses. She agrees. The protagonist realizes that she thought she should keep as much distance between herself and the temple as possible. Although it is possible to conduct observation and maintain relationships at a moderate distance, it is also not bad. After all, who knows? Maybe she'll find clues about the man who's in secret collusion with Cheshire. At this point, the priest turns to the young lady and asserts that, frankly, they were hoping she'd stop by the temple immediately upon arriving in Arendelle. And the girl says that, regarding this, and the priest claims that he understands that her circumstances were not entirely simple. The girl is in poor health, and besides, several other different incidents happen to her. But she shouldn't be treated so inattentively here, and the main character wonders what he wants to tell her. The man at this time claims that Sir Iske is, of course, a very valuable talent, but sometimes nothing can be done about his anger. Redbeckia replies that everything is wrong, and that she was never seriously approached, and that her husband and everyone else treat her very well. The girl realizes that the priest seems to want to know something about her, and he claims that the girl really is a real Sistine Angel, because she is so modest that the acuity of her soul simply cannot be measured. And he is really glad that there is a special connection between them, but nevertheless, if suddenly she has a hard time coping with something, then let the girl come to their temple at any time without any burdens. After all, the great temple of Arendelle will not betray His Holiness's blessing. The protagonist thanks him for such kind words, and the priest insists that these are merely obvious things. Also, there is a rather cold side to the people of the north, so even though they are religious, they are not so kind to others. The main character then asks if the priest lived in the north all this time. And he replies that in his youth, while on a pilgrimage, he once visited Romagna and was then blessed by the virtue of the monastery of Francesco. The main character then wonders if he really received help from the monastery of Romagna and if the archbishop is the same person. If there is a secret conspiracy with her family, then the situation will be problematic. The man at this time claims that he, being so insignificant, will not be able to fully understand the will of His Holiness. But during her stay there, he will make every effort to help her. However, the priest is then a little surprised, because he sees the Duke in front of him. And the main character wonders what this familiar picture is, and what her husband's whole family has gathered in one place. Then the priest turns to their lord the Duke and says what a blessing it is that he returned safe and sound. The man replies that yes, they haven't seen each other for a long time, after which the priest also asks whether the problems at the Hamelin estate were resolved successfully. At this time, Iskek looks at the young lady and she only smiles, but the guy then turns around. The young lady then wonders what is wrong with him again, and was he really afraid that she would slander him to the archbishop? At this time, Ellen turns to Ruby and tells her to go there and also not to pay attention, because they are always like this when they meet each other. But then someone just smiles and says that the Duke gives too. It turns out to be Freya. And she claims that it's better to just look at the paintings, because he's making fun of Iz again. There will be plenty of things he might like on display, so maybe she should take part in the auction instead and give him a painting. Elena tells the girl to give up that idea, as she's already unbearably fed up with all the paintings piling up at home. The girl then turns to the lady and asks if she likes painting, and the main character replies that she does, but she doesn't really know much about it. The girl then asks if it's true, and the Duke simply adores paintings. So she asks how about Togo also participating in the auction and giving the Duke a painting. She understands that on the one hand it sounds like good advice, but since Freya is saying it, she is no longer sure and the Duke may not like her gift. And besides, she has no money at all, and according to the rules, she can, in principle, use the money she brought with her as a dowry. But if she uses it at her own discretion, she will worry about the opinions of others on this matter. So now the young lady claims that she seems to understand paintings much better than she does, so she will just admire them for now. The girl then says that, what about the lady? She herself has not studied painting properly. And isn't Romagna considered the sacred land of art? Elena suggests ending the conversation about paintings. After which he turns to Ruby and claims that they had recently discussed something there among themselves. They were also thinking of hiring her a new, responsible maid. The main character then asks what she's talking about. The girl claims that the residents of their mansion had been with them for a very long time, so for her convenience, they decided to choose a servant who was not connected to their family in any way. Rebecca then wonders if they are really choosing a new personal servant for her, and what's more, one who is not in the family. Elena claims that, frankly, it was her brother who brought it up first, but she also thought his proposal was a good idea. After all, she's the wife of Marquise Furiana. She knows a lot of people who can be trusted, so she is going to entrust the choice of the maid to Free. Rebecca understands that this is an excellent chance, and her new servant will have fewer warnings about her, and also, since they are both foreigners, it will be easier to lure her to her side. Freya, meanwhile, insists that they sent letters of recommendation first, so she's required to look at them in person and make a decision. The protagonist thinks, although she's a little uncomfortable with Freya doing this, the girl turns to her mistress and says that an older, more experienced servant would be more suitable. She then asks the girl what she thinks, but Elena tells her to look for slightly younger girls. Freya then claims that perhaps the mistress thinks differently. Well, then the girl doesn't finish her sentence. The main character looks at her in shock and asks what happened. However, the girl only coughs, after which they collapse to the ground. Elena immediately rises from her seat. However, at that very moment, the main character runs up to the girl and tells her not to lose consciousness, but she only coughs again. And then the girl feels someone's hand on her shoulder, after which she's completely pushed away, and it turns out to be Iska. The guy looks at her coldly and tells her to get out of the way. The main character is then in shock and wonders what happened, and the man only tells her to get out and then begins to use magic. And then he carries the girl away. Alina also looks at the young lady a little sadly, then turns and leaves. The main character then looks at her sleeve in shock and sees that there are still traces of wine left there. She also recalls her past life, where her mother put herself into eternal sleep. But now someone screams at the girl, after which he throws her to the floor and screams that it is all her fault. It turns out to be Freya's brother, and he screams that he knew it, because that damn witch, pretending to be an innocent angel, poisoned his sister. Ivan at this time turns to Lady Rudbeckia, and when he sees that Lorenzo has attacked her. Then he says what a crazy psycho he is, and then runs up to him, but at that very moment someone hits the guy in the face, and the man says that it looks like his foolish son lost his mind for a moment. He also bows and asks Lady Rudbeckia to forgive his rudeness. The main character looks at his face, but at that very moment, a thunderstorm begins, or someone screams for everyone to immediately head to the temple. One of the knights also claims that it is dangerous there, and the main character is breathing heavily at this time. Ivan then turns to the lady and tells her to go there quickly. The main character, however, is still in shock and unable to come to her senses. Then the guy apologizes for his tactlessness and then helps the girl up. He also uses his powers and tells them to cordon off Zone B and evacuate all the guests. When the main character looks at the knights, she sees that they are fighting a monster. And the knight at this time screams out how these creatures got to the temple, because he had never heard or seen anything like it anywhere. Ivan then swears and asks how this could happen on such a holiday. And the main character realizes that those tightly locked doors opened again only a quarter of a day later. She was told that fortunately Freya had survived, but if you were a little late, her life could be in danger, and the man who had served them glasses of grape wine had suddenly disappeared, and with him, the way to get to the truth in this poisoning incident had disappeared. A little while later, the protagonist is sitting in her bed, and someone claims that he wants to talk about the poison that Lady Furiana drank. He also asks the lady if she has any suggestions. At this point, the girl realizes she's not stupid. Therefore, she cannot help but understand with what intentions the Duke asked her this question. She also claims that she feels like Lady Furiana was set upon from the very beginning, and that she and Helen also drank that wine, but they were fine. The man then claims that it's not poison, but a solution of the Magok stone. And the girl thinks so. The Magok stone is a combination of a magic stone and a Holy Spirit stone. It is used as bait to attract monsters and for its special uses. It is necessary to go through a complex procedure in order to obtain permission to use the stone. And all because it belongs to sacred objects, and she thinks that this is why it was made. It's only possible if the Vatican changes. The Duke tells the young lady what the Archbishop said, that all the Magok stones that were kept in the temple are still in their place. And he asks if the girl understands what he's getting at. The young lady then understands what's going on. Everyone now believes she's behind that incident. The Borgia family's activities are a secret dive into eternal sleep. It is considered an open secret, just like her bad reputation due to her connection with their family members. And what's more, if the Archbishop, who is Freya's uncle, considers her to be the culprit, then such a turn of events cannot be considered strange. The Duke at this time asserts that he will not accept the fact that his daughter-in-law is considered a real criminal, because she is undeniably part of the Omerta family. The protagonist wonders if she really is part of the family. But the man claims that he doesn't even think that she's capable of something like that, and only asks that if she suddenly knows anything, then let her tell him. However, the young lady claims that she really doesn't understand what she should say because she knows what everyone is thinking. And they believe that she is jealous of my lady and therefore are sure that she committed such a terrible act. The man is a little surprised after this and asks who dared to say such nonsense about her. The main character is sobbing, and the Duke hands her a handkerchief, insisting it's nothing more. But then he tells her to stop crying first. After all, he didn't ask her the question with such intentions. Rudbeckia understands that, even though he says it, she's not to blame. But it's true that everyone who witnessed the incident personally suspects her, and the girl is certain that people think that because she's the Pope's daughter, she can get her hands on the Magok stone at any time, or that she entrusted this matter to someone she had already won over. The Duke is now waiting for her to tell him he shouldn't have told her all this, and apologizes for his tactlessness. The situation is, of course, serious, but a completely innocent person is being accused of it, so he will repeat that he is slandering his daughter-in-law. It's tantamount to insulting the entire Omerta family, so now he asks the lady to stop. To tears, the main character then realizes that she feels like there's more to her than just her father, and to them, she's still just an outsider. That same evening, the girl lies in bed, and she thinks she initially decided to entertain several theories. The first was that this was the tricks of some crazy psycho who had too many grievances against her. And if this was planned based on the anger that had accumulated in Furian's family or in the temple, then most likely the culprit found the Magok stone on the black market. After all, the sale of sacred paraphernalia is common there. The second theory is that this could have been a provocation on the part of Ramanya, but the main character thinks why they should do this, because if they use the Magok stone they will be immediately found out. And the third theory is that someone else wants to get rid of her, and immediately after that incident happened to the girl, all suspicions fell on her and they can also benefit from this. The fourth theory is that Cheshire provoked her to do this to arouse suspicion, and to keep her from becoming attached to this place. If the guy wanted to deteriorate her relationship, that's entirely possible. And he is just waiting for her to quickly get a divorce and come back. There's even a guy who is located in a place where the magic stone can be obtained at any time. And she is sure that their family spy told about what happened in the temple, and then this option is the most suitable. But now the girl is thinking that, while messing around with her husband, she completely forgot about the insanity and madness of this psychopath. Now the girl sits down on the bed and says that she doesn't know. But then she wonders what Iski is thinking about now. The young lady also remembers the way he looked at her, and understands that it is obvious that he regrets having anything to do with her all this time. After all, Freya is Iski's friend since childhood, and of course she is an important person for him. Rebecca understands that her head is already a mess, and now her body is in complete disarray. Well, as they say, misfortunes never come alone, and the same annual event overtook her again. And this had already happened twice this year, so she thought it wouldn't happen again. Well, when the main character drinks water, she suddenly notices what is in it, after which she throws the glass on the floor. He also coughs heavily, and, looking at the spilled water, wonders if there are any grains of sand in it. The girl also thinks who the hell is and why all this is happening to her, and also whether this someone really wants her to feel the same pain as Freya. Rebecca wipes up the spilled water and says it's too painful. The girl also thinks that Freya must be fine, since everyone in this house is on her side. Well, then the main character notices that someone is behind her, but when she turns around, then Alina already presses her against the wall and asks why she is doing this. After all, doubts began to visit her from the moment she first saw the hands of the young lady, so let her scream. Let the girl say why she is doing this, and also whether she really wants to attract attention to herself, or she feels that food pollutes her body. But if she wants to fall into a normal sleep in this way, then let her do it in silence, and also why is she trying to put you into a crippling sleep in this way? Rebecca replies that it is because it is the only thing she can control herself. Alina is then a little surprised, and when she sees that the young lady is crying, she calms down. After which, she steps back and tells Alina what she's done. She asks her to forgive her. Then he turns and walks away, leaving the protagonist alone. Rebecca then looks at her hands and understands. The wounds that she gets from something that habitually induces vomiting, if you don't look closely, you might not even see them. But since Ellen noticed, does this mean that she already had experience with something similar? The girl also remembers her face and understands that perhaps this is not Ellen's own experience. So who did she remember? A little while later, the main character is already sitting at the same table with her. The girl also thinks what she should do because the situation there is very awkward. After which, she gets up from the table and understands that this won't work, and that she needs to leave quickly, after which she states that she will go. Alina agrees, but when the girl is already near the door, she turns to Ruby. She claims the Archbishop is asking her to visit the temple, and whether she should go. The girl then thinks it's definitely connected to the attempted poisoning of Freya. After which she states that yes, and she is going, and also thanks Helen and goes to her room. When the young lady leaves, the girl merely looks away and ponders something. A short time later, the main character is already heading to the temple in a carriage, and he thinks that if Cheshire is really behind this incident, then there is a high probability that the Archbishop is a spy, and then it turns out that he is connected to the harm caused to his precious niece. Well, then the main character thinks she doesn't even know, because first she'll meet him, and then they'll see. Rebecca also realizes that she went there with Iske a few days ago, but it all seems so distant, and the girl is interested in whether he is now at the training ground. But after that incident, he did not show his nose and was so worried about her, doubting her, otherwise he should find out everything by looking into her face. The girl also understands that she will only take a quick glance at him and then leave, but then she hears someone addressing Lorenzo. The girl then turns the corner and realizes that Togo herself unknowingly hid and was not noticed. Meanwhile, the man still turns to the boy and asks if his sister hasn't gotten much better. The girl realizes that Endymion is there, and Iske too. At this time, Lorenzo claims that the fact that the guy will come out with his eyes is not everything, and Endymion then says that he should stick around next to her for the whole time. Why did the guy come there? And he was punished. However, Lorenzo tells the young man to shut up, because if his older sister were coughing up red liquid and falling into a normal sleep before his eyes, he would be able to witness his hands. The boy replies that he doesn't know, because he doesn't have a younger sister, and even if there was, he wouldn't have done that to someone who was completely uninvolved in what happened, and the main character realizes that it looks like they're talking about her now. However, Lorenzo asks if he is saying that the girl was not involved, and the young man replies that he was, and if his father had not intervened then, the boy would not have even dreamed of becoming a paladin. Lorenzo then asks if Endymion thinks that he is the same coward as he is, because what is so important about the Pope's daughter? Because whoever she is, let them just pounce on her, because what can these rotten pigs do to them? Endymion says that this is the first time he has seen a man insult the Pope standing in front of a temple, after which he tells the guy to stop this horror with the ravings of a madman and to do better in training, and not to forget that in the Omerta family she is a princess, but the young man then scolds him and tells him not to talk nonsense. After which he completely screams that no matter what kind of saint this girl pretends to be, she is just a dirty slut, and what kind of princess is the one who tumbles around with her older brother. Endymion then grabs the guy by the collar, but he only asks if he is wrong, and if this girl just catches his eye, he will punch her in the face. Meanwhile, the main character, in shock, covers her ears and then runs away. The girl begins to feel very sick and wonders what to do. It's simply unbearable, and she doesn't want to do anything, so now she says that you never know who might see her, and decides to sit near the bushes for a bit. Rebecca also wonders what to do after this, and where to go, and whether there's a place for her anywhere at all. The young lady understands that everything aches, both her body and her soul. After which she also remembers Iske and thinks why he cared about her, and also why he doubted her so much, and why he believed her words, and also protected her. The girl also wonders why he gave her false hope that he alone was different from all the other people she'd met. Now the girl also hears someone beeping, and she thinks that this can't be because these sounds are very familiar, after which she turns around, and she sees the very same little monster she met in the forest. The young lady then says that they are near the temple now, and it's dangerous for him to be here, and she also asks if he was really looking for her, to which the raccoon beeps. And the main character says what a cutie he is, but then apologizes, but says that she is feeling very bad right now, but she is still glad to see him, but at the same moment the young lady wears out, the red liquid starts flowing again. Meanwhile, the monster takes the girl on himself, and the main character asks if he's going to take her, to which he merely beeps. The girl then asserts that, if you think about it, everyone would be happy if she disappeared. Then he leans against the raccoon and says they can go. Meanwhile, Ivan turns to Iska and hands him a mirror. And he also tells the guy to look at that disgusting face, and asks if he can even imagine how painful it is for them to see her every day. And if he has any conscience, let him scurry out of there and short-circuit his magnifying glass for a bit. However, Isuke then only knocks the mirror out of the guy's hands. The blonde exclaims, "What a jerk this guy is," and he's worried about him, and he's just playing tricks on him. Isuke insists he didn't ask her to worry about him, and Ivan insists he hasn't slept for 3 days and looks like he's turned into something. That is, if he doesn't go on strike, asking for concern about what then. The guy then simply asks if so many days have already passed, and his colleague replies that he'll only do so if, at this rate, he suddenly collapses. And if he drops out, he'll have nothing to do with it, and the blonde guy asks the guy if he thinks this will suddenly make the missing guy reappear. Ivan also insists that this is the job of the city security forces, not their jurisdiction. And as his sister said, they've even hung up a portrait of the criminal because of it. However, Isuke asks, what if he's no longer alive? Vadim is then a little surprised, and asks what he's talking about. After which, he tells the boy to listen, and claims that he understands that he's angry because Togo was the one who caused the incident, specifically Freya. However, Isuke outshines him and insists that he's not particularly angry, after which the blonde asks why he's causing this whole circus. The guy recalls how Freya claimed she was very glad he came to her and thinks he simply couldn't sit idly by, because he didn't understand the meaning of those words and actions, or where he was going or where his thoughts were headed. So now he puts his hand on his head and claims he doesn't know either. Ivan then says, "What a choking guy." And it's not because of his wife that he accidentally does this, after which the young man falls silent and realizes that the image of that devilish day flickers before his eyes. After all, those eyes have lost all hope and vitality. He can't forget if they hadn't stopped the manticores that day, or if even a drop of Freya's red liquid, absorbed into the magok stone, had fallen on her. But the boy understands that if he says a little later that that act wasn't for anyone else but for her, he thought the girl would understand if this was the Rebecca he knew. Meanwhile, the blonde insists he's not the only one with such suspicions, as even passing dogs would think the Borgia family was behind the incident. Isuke then asks the boy if he wants to say that his wife's family deliberately used the magok stone, which easily arouses suspicion, and tried to poison the daughter of the Cardinal Britain family. Ivan replies that, although after his words, it all sounds a bit iffy. But then he asks if he's completely removed his wife's family from the suspect list. Isuke insists that should have sounded reasonable from the start. And after this, the blonde doesn't understand what he's talking about, and the guy claims that the black market is already in full swing with illegal trade in magok stones, so it's impossible to suspect just one temple, and it's necessary to conduct another investigation on Furion's family and those with whom they share a mutual grudge. So the blonde tells the boy to wait, because if the criminal he was looking for mentions his wife, what will he do? The young man stops after that. The blonde realized he'd only just realized the source of that strange feeling of discomfort, and that the guy hadn't been doing all this to catch the criminal from the start. After all, if the culprit had even the slightest connection to his wife, like the temple or Romagna, he'd be in trouble. He's ready to destroy him without a trace, and the blonde man now asks what if his wife turns out to be a criminal, but the guy replies that he doesn't care. Ivan asks what he's talking about, and Isuke turns to him, and he claims he doesn't care. The blonde understands that these are eyes in which doubt is impossible to find, a faith so twisted it's maddening. Ivan also thinks the guy is saying he doesn't care even if the real culprit is him. And is it logical? After all, it was not someone else but Freya who almost fell into eternal sleep. But how can he, despite this, cover for his wife? That's why the blonde claims that he doesn't understand anything at all. But then Endymion runs up from behind and shouts for Sir Isuke to wait. He then runs closer and claims a package has arrived from heiress Elena. The man then asks what it's about, and the boy replies that his wife has disappeared. The main character opens her eyes and wonders where she is and what those sounds are, but when she fully opens her eyes, she's shocked to find herself in a cave, and she wonders what's going on there. The girl also wonders what she should do and whether she should pretend to be dead. However, The monster then looks at her and then throws her a leg from the horse he caught and ate. But the main character, seeing this, only screams. Then another monster with berries enters the cave, and Rudbeckia asks if it's really a raccoon. But he just takes a leg from the horse and throws it at another monster, after which they seem to start arguing, and the girl, watching this, wonders if they are really friends. The raccoon then hands her the berries, and the young lady asks if he's telling her to tempt them. Rudbeckia also understands that he'll probably be disappointed if she refuses, since, after all, he picked these berries especially for her. After which she watches the raccoon and eats them, and the monsters are happy about the video, and the girl thinks that she should say that these berries are delicious, after which she says so, and the two hug each other with joy. But looking at the monsters, she wonders if they are really so happy that she is eating the food they collected, after which she smiles and tells them to go there and offers to eat together.